You're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Wow, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Midnight's Edge in the morning in this Monday, May 6th. May it is right now. And joining me is Script Doctor, straight out of Canada. How's it going?
It's going well. Had a fun morning. I'm here to talk about all the weekend's events with you all here today.
Fantastic. Also joining us is Cultured Casino, who is muted.
Twice today. Twice already. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Should be fun. We got some interesting things to chat up. I'm excited.
Yeah, indeed. And we also have more people joining us. Mr. Chato, who will be joining us before long, so should Tom, and then you never really know who might show up. We do have a super chat to get us started before we get into the full topics of today, which are a little bit Star Wars and Helldivers dominated, as you can surely see from the description and thumbnail. But to get us started, Patrick Robertson says for $4.99. So the Fall Guy Friday with my wife. Totally agree with Cultured. Very fun movie. No wokeness whatsoever. 9 out of 10.
Yep. Good film.
Yeah, I agree with that. I did notice one thing that I forgot to mention as I spoke about it with the Script last Wednesday, because we both had seen it by then. Mm-hmm. That movie set was awfully female-centric, as in it was a ton of women there. Female director, female producer, female this, female that. Not a lot of men among the crew.
Well, actually, you saw the men on the stunt side of things. That's kind of the...
Yeah, that's but outside of stunts, not a lot of men in the crew. That was a very female-heavy production.
Well, a lot of...
There's anything wrong with that.
There are a lot of film crews that have a lot of women working there, like especially in the hair and makeup department, especially on the science fiction thing, and on costumes. There's tons of women. Usually, the things that I noticed is that the camera operator was a man, some of the gaffers and lighting crew were men, and then the first AD was a guy. So that's kind of normal. And then we saw a screenwriter was a woman, and then we saw basically the assistant to Emily Blunt's character was a woman, and a couple of other people that were doing all the stuff. But even the team, the safety team that was applying, say, the protective gel on Ryan Gosling, that was all guys. It was kind of well balanced, I thought. The director and the creative side had a little bit more women, especially with the producer who is from Ted Lasso. But I'm like, I thought this was kind of balanced because it was very familiar to other sets that I saw and I've been a part of. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. It's kind of sort of normal, par for the course. There's a lot more women that work in film behind the scenes than you'd ever expect initially. Not on the most physical labor side things, because there's certain weight requirements of what you can lift without hurting yourself that not a lot of women can do, but some can. So yeah, I thought it was pretty fairly balanced and kind of funny. I especially like the joke with the prop director where she hands her the axe guitar weapon and then tells her that she's had like 200 of them made. It's like that would never happen on an actual production, but I get the joke.
Yeah, it was funny. Well, that's cool. So it's realistic then. Also joining us, The other part of the Canadian contingent, Mr. Paul Chato, welcome.
Hi, I heard you're talking Fall Guys. I saw it on the weekend.
Yeah. How was it?
Really good. I really enjoyed it a lot. It was kind of slow in the middle. A lot of dialogue seemed to be improvised because that kind of unwritten, yeah, right, oh, kind of dialogue, which I don't know how you write that. You've got to just sort of, didn't you notice that, script doctor?
Yes, they improvise on the spot, I should imagine.
It's hard these days to tell if it's improvised because The Office did it so well, like, because that's not improvised. Every pause, awkward thing, that was all heavily scripted. I've got those scripts in my my apartment. So the question is that what it really was, or was it, actual improv? It's hard 100% to discern until the cast starts revealing what it is they did. I will say they missed a couple of really big opportunities to make fun of actors and producers in this production, given the plot that they're doing. But yeah, I think this is a movie that a lot of your broad audience is going to enjoy. And I think I kind of almost nailed it on its box office. It wasn't going to break 30 million, did it?
No.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the box office, but first we have someone else joining us, namely Tom. Good morning.
Hello, Tom.
Good new week, I guess.
You could have just left me in the back. I ain't seen it.
No, but you have seen the box office, and that's what we'll be talking about right now. So culture, today or this weekend, we had the box office of both The Fall Guy and the re-release of Star Wars Episode 1. So what happened?
Well, believe it or not, it fell out exactly the way that Script Doctor said it would. You ended up with a film underperforming at the box office, and in that the Fall Guy only made 28.5 million based on current estimates at a little over 4,000 theaters, which is the widest release I've seen recently. And averaging about $7,000 per theater for the weekend. So not too.
Does this mean the death of movie stars? Because you had two big stars.
We had one big star. Yeah. You had Ryan Gosling, but I'm not sure you can call Emily Blunt a big movie star after what happened with her and The Rock on Jungle Cruise.
I would also wager to say that, considering that this is Ryan Gosling, and up until very recently, Ryan Gosling's brand has been to be in breakup movies and other depressing affair. I mean, that's kind of like why he was cast as Ken, I'm sure, because he is so good at being broken up with on screen. Because that's kind of like his forte in past movies.
Or making
love.
It's a great opening. Dolls.
What was that, Paul?
Or making love with blow-up dolls.
Yeah, that too, I guess.
I guess because of Blade Runner 2049 and his.
Well, he had that movie, The Doll, right?
Oh yes, he did. That was a decade ago, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I'm not gonna hold that against
an old movie.
Well, the good news is the Fall Guy actually beat Jungle Cruise in box office weekend. So
I think it'll have legs.
I do too, because word of mouth has been very good.
Yeah, and the Challengers is dropping 49%, which would have been much better if it had opened at a higher amount, because it's still only at the sub 30 million by the end of the weekend, at least as far as estimates go. But still, it's hard to deny that the box office is down from what it was a few years ago, because traditionally, this is where we would have had a Marvel movie. And when Marvel movies used to be popular and used to do good, we should have had like a $80 to $100 million weekend right about here, which we don't. And let's move into Star Wars, because this was the re-release of the Phantom Menace, which pulled in 8 million over the weekend. And I don't know.
I thought it pulled in 482 million. I thought, well, that's pretty good weekend.
That would have been something. No, that's the total gross by adding in gross from non-inflation adjusted gross from more than 20 years ago. But still, I have to say, 8 million in a re-release of this, I would have expected it at least traditionally, I would have expected it to do more than this.
No. People are forgetting this 8 million right now is simply because they're nostalgic for good Star Wars. When they've released this 10 years ago in 3D, nobody went to see it.
Oh, that's
Literally
true, yeah.
crickets were all that were in the audience.
Interesting.
You know, nobody remembers that, because what happened was this was just before he sold it to Disney. He was going to re-release all 6 movies in 3D in theaters.
But that
The
new
first
3D
one
too,
did
right?
so piss poor. Yeah, the first one did so piss poor they canceled the whole thing. They still have the movies converted in 3D. They actually showed Attack of the Clones at one of the fan events. But all 6 movies have been converted to 3D. They're just sitting there collecting dust.
I remember
Disney
that
was
because
supposed to put those in that big ass box set, and they never did.
well, you remember those theaters that George Lucas was talking about a little over a decade ago, where it's like it's 3D without the glasses that he was trying to do with Star Wars? That was around the time he did this, right?
It was 2012 or whatever.
Yeah,
Or
2012 is basically like, we're going to do a Star Wars re-release and it's going to be 3D, but you don't need to wear 3D glasses. That's what his goal was to do with this weird like
him and
3-screen
James
theater.
Cameron were all hopped up on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
3D, or glass-free 3D or whatever it was. Yeah, but they were like,
And
it's going to cost like millions of dollars to convert every theater.
yeah, it was only going to be one screen in every theater. That's the other part too that they were going to do. I remember I was thinking that's ridiculous, and also why nobody really cares about 3D. 3D is this oscillating fad all the time. It doesn't really do anything.
I like it, but it's never utilized well enough, and they overdid it. That was the other thing. Like for a while there, and that was the thing. Every single movie was released in 3D because they got the premium seats, prices or whatever. So they got that extra.
And to clarify, the problem wasn't that every movie was released in 3D. It was that every movie was shittily post-converted into 3D. That's what really did it in.
Well, either way, but my point was like everything, and I mean everything got a release. Like I've got 300 some plus 3D Blu-rays or whatever it is, because every movie from like 2000, whatever it was, 2000, what, 8, 9, whatever it was, whatever after Avatar until like, the last few years here.
Yeah. And for those of you that also have a good collection of 3D Blu-rays, preserve your TV that's capable of playing them back, because that is not the common feature in modern day TVs anymore.
Well, the upside is most projectors have it, and people are using the Oculus Rift and the
VR. VR and AR headsets. Yeah.
3D movies is basically the modern electric car.
Well, and
Wow.
as a fan, I could sit there and go, look, of all the 3D films, there's maybe 10 that I would say really do a good job with the 3D, and you're talking like sort of, but I would go like more with like Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy are two of the probably coolest 3D experiences I ever had. Tron is amazing. Tron Legacy.
Yeah, that would be my first one, Tron Legacy. That was glorious. Perfect usage.
There's a few others, but the problem is just so few and far between, and most of them they don't even use the 3D in any unique way. The ones that do are like Guardians of the Galaxy. And surprisingly, Ghostbusters, the 2016 movie, actually had some pretty cool 3D effects, but the movie is shit. Like they even have it to where the movie comes off the screen because they use the black bars to where the beams and stuff will come out, so it looks like it's actually coming off your TV. But yeah,
they did that in Dread as well. The blood.
Dread's another good one in 3D.
Coming off the blood, the black bars.
Yeah, Dread's great in 3D, but again, you're stuck at this. There's literally like a dozen, maybe tops. But anyway, that being said, we derailed. But no, I think the whole reason this movie made $8 million is A, lack of choices in the theater, and B, because people were nostalgic for good Star Wars. Plus, a lot of the kids that grew up with this are now adult age where they can just take their whole family to the theater to see it too. I think
and a generation that never got to see it in the theaters that liked it before the sequel trilogy.
Yeah. Well, then I stand corrected, because I thought it seemed.
It is big for a real. That part is pretty good actually for a re-release.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, then Disney should take heat and take that as a further signal of this is what Star Wars can be if they just refrain from mucking it up.
Ha.
Because the top re-released films, I think, are still the Star Wars trilogy, the original ones from '97, because those made like what, $20 million, I think, opening weekend, which then was even really good for an opening weekend.
Yeah.
And I think The Godfather, I think, had a really good re-release a couple of years back. You'd be hard pressed to see 8 million again for a re-release like that, because like Jaws, for instance, when it did last year, I think the best it did was 2 million its opening weekend. And even Return of the Jedi, I think, only did like what was it, Culture? 2 million its opening weekend, something like that.
Yeah, it
3?
was really, really small.
But no, that opened on what, a third of the screens.
It didn't open on. Yeah, I mean, and consider
or at
this.
least
I mean,
half.
yeah. If you look at these numbers, right? I mean, it opened on 2,700 screens. That's huge compared to what we've been seeing for a lot of these re-releases. Let me pull up the numbers, but I think even the Pixar re-releases of recent, it didn't have that many screens. I just need to look that up though. But yeah, the biggest problem I think for re-releases is that you're having a dwindling audience for them. Even though some people want to see it on the big screen, I think that that's going to not be the case going forward. People are so used to watching things at home.
Are you sure though? Because I was going to say, I mean, here's the thing you have right now. You have a lot of people who don't have home video now anymore. And unless it's on streaming, this is the only way they can see movies sometimes. And I think that's, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that's why some of these re-releases have been so popular lately.
Maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Nobody? All right.
Correct.
No, sorry,
Zach?
I got no commentary on that. I don't think there's enough data yet to make a determination.
Yeah, no, that's kind of like why I was quiet as well. Like we don't have enough daily trends. I think like everything's a little bit in a state of flux, and I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other in this moment.
Well, okay, so I'm looking at the re-releases right now of the films that Pixar just dropped again, right? And the re-releases and everything else. So they opened Luca in 1,390 theaters, and they opened Turning
like
Red
half.
in 1,560 theaters. Now,
and they all flopped tremendously.
Yeah, the re-releases were not successful, for lack of a better way of saying things. Especially, I guess, the re-release of Soul was in 1,350 theaters.
Yeah, but you know what? Those weren't re-releases. Those were dumps.
Okay.
Like, there's no publicity. It's this new Hollywood that doesn't know that promotion and hype and buzz is 90% of what it is that you're in the business of doing. They've just lost this kind of joy to tell people about their stuff.
There's that, and I think the other problem is, and I hope that the studios take note of this weekend, because they're acting like The Fall Guy is a huge flop. And I'm sitting here looking at it going, a movie that made almost $30 million at the box office should not be considered a flop. Why is it considered a flop? Because the damn thing costs too much.
Correct.
That's why. They have gotten themselves so used, and this is where I've said it again and again and again, the superhero movie and MCU thing destroyed Hollywood. That's what destroyed Hollywood. Why? Because they don't know how anymore to make a movie for less than $150 million.
How much was this? Do you know what?
$130 million. That's the fucking problem right there. Because if it wasn't $130 million, that would be, who the fuck has heard of The Fall Guy in the last 20 years? That's the best part about this, is that most people don't even know this is a remake, right? You have like The Equalizer. Most people knew it was a remake compared to this, right? So this is the beauty of this, is you have a property with an actor who's hot as hell right now. This is a decent box office, And the only reason people are calling it a flop is because the movie cost too fucking much.
Well, Ryan and Blunt were probably half that 130 million.
Potentially, but at the same time, why was this movie even $130 million? It's a movie about stuntmen. It should only be like $60 or $70 million.
That would have
Full
sold
of real
everything.
stunts.
Well,
Yeah.
and just to reinforce what you were saying about Return of the Jedi, because I looked it up. When it released on April 28th, 2023, that weekend, it only netted 7.2 million, or I should say gross 7.2 million in 475 theaters. So compare
And
that to,
did really well, actually. Yeah. So there you go. That would have doubled this.
Oh, easily, because of inflation. Again, because 2023, we're in 2024. We're a year apart from each other. And this was in 2,700 theaters, not 475.
So basically what you're saying is if they released Star Wars, the 1977 film, right now in theaters with the same kind of push they did Phantom Menace, they probably could have doubled that.
Oh, easily, especially if it was, the original despecialized.
And that's almost on par. Yeah, well, even the regular edition that they have now, or whatever you want to call it, the special edition. Because that was my point, is that's the kind of numbers the special edition brought in back in the day. Actually, not quite, but the same with
I submit if they had released not Star Wars Episode 4, just Star Wars, as it was released in 1977, the despecialized edition before anything was done. If they had advertised that would have beaten the shit out of the Fall Guy this weekend.
Oh, 50 million, 60 million, 100 million easy. You wouldn't even know where the ceiling would go on that.
Yeah. And really it does need, no matter what anybody says, it does need 400 million to break even, most likely.
Unfortunately.
And when I look at, this, I think the most embarrassing thing is that Godzilla X Kong is still in theaters and still at number 5. That's how bad the box office is right now.
Well, the kids love it.
Maybe so, but
Ghostbusters ends its run at about 109 locally and what is it, like 90 outside the US. So it did cross 200 million this weekend.
Oh, that's
because it does open on VOD tomorrow or tonight at midnight, whatever.
So okay, so it's like at 195. That's okay. Would nice to have been better, but yeah, I see that.
Did it only go? I thought it crossed 200 million this weekend.
Yeah, I thought it did so too. That's
numbers. The numbers are saying 195 right now, so maybe the final totals aren't.
They haven't probably added the final bit.
Yeah, international is also like a few days behind. So what I see here is it's now at 204 million worldwide. Is what I'm getting here.
Which I think from the rumors we were hearing was the magic number, that if it at least hit 200 million, they might get the next one. So let's see.
Well, this is. Oh yeah, no, sorry. What I read, the 204, that was for Afterlife, so it's not quite Afterlife levels, but it's within striking distance. So
plus or minus 10 million is still really good from the previous.
I don't think they've added this weekend completely to it, because I swear I read that it went over 200 million. So,
but think of it this way: if the first one did just over 200 million in its global box office take, and the sequel came very, very close, that's a very negative impact decline financially.
It is.
So Sony would actually look at this as a win, because again, the closer you are to the previous movie's box office total is always going to be a good metric. And a lot of the time, sequels, especially technically like the 5th Ghostbusters movie out, doesn't usually have such a small gap between the previous one like this. So that, I don't know, I think Sony's going to take that into consideration.
You know what? I have a win for you here that Sony should take into consideration. I'm reading now the box office for Ghostbusters Afterlife, where it says international 74 million internationally for the previous movie. Now this one, 85 million, and that is without this weekend's number being in. So it has actually grown 10 million internationally, and now in percentage, I can't do that, but that's like.
Well, you kind of have to put an asterisk next to that, because don't forget that Afterlife came out really soon after they started opening things up again. Because
Yeah.
that's where I said that movie suffered was, had they just waited a few more months, I think it would have done much better.
It's funny, that's a modern day tradition then, release the movies at the worst possible timing.
Well, have
Yeah.
they just waited till after Spider-Man? Because that was the thing. You had Spider-Man and Top Gun and all that stuff that did so friggin' well. That, yeah, like I can't believe that they just hadn't just waited a little bit longer. But it did really well on video on demand from what I heard, and I think they're expecting the same here. So that's the
Yeah.
thing. Ghostbusters will play like a classic film. Maybe it didn't make its money back in theaters, but it's most.
I hope we get at least one more, because there's a ton of ghosts on the loose right now that needs to be caught for the sequel.
Yeah.
And Script's probably right. They probably pre-sold the hell out of this movie.
Oh, definitely.
So it probably was already in the black before it even hit screens.
That's the goal, at least when you're doing pre-sale market within the last 7 to 8 years. And Disney changed the game on that because, again, when they got Marvel and they started getting billion-dollar hits, that pre-sale money, that goes up. That price goes up huge to the point where, yeah, you could probably be starting your movie could probably be in the black by the time it hits theaters, depending on the reputation. I think The Fall Guy probably got maybe 40% of its budget pre-sold. Because again, it's Universal and they didn't really have much IPs. And you're talking about an IP that started in the 80s and ended in the late 80s ish.
86, I think. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not enough. It's not really in the pantheon of people's memory. And then the other part too is also this movie is The Fall Guy pretty much in name only. Like that, if you're a fan of the series, you're probably going to have some significant resistance to this movie.
Well, the way that Culture was explaining it to me, of course, you said you've seen it too, right?
Yep.
Oh, okay, as I say, isn't it set up kind of like a prequel to what the series could?
I kind of
felt,
or
whatever you were saying.
Yeah, I kind of felt it was set up in that way that this could have been something that led into the series if they were going to reboot the series again.
Mm-hmm.
Because there wasn't any of the bail bonds stuff that was in the original series. So
No,
yeah.
the entire
rules have
concept
probably changed since then too. That's the other thing I wonder.
Yeah, like this is kind of like a parallel sequel reboot of the franchise, so to speak. If they were to do a follow-up to it and they don't incorporate the bounty hunting part, but they make it more like the spy angle that they kind of did, the investigation angle itself.
Right.
That would be a change into the genre, but it wouldn't actually be so distant from the actual concept itself that it'd be foreign. Because again, in The Fall Guy, he's a bounty hunter, but he has to investigate, find, track, and bring back the target. That is still very prevalent in the movie. It's just the motivation behind it is not about making up money to pay your bills. It's about just solving the crime.
I did find it unusual that they made him a parking lot attendant as opposed to a valet attendant, as opposed to trying to make money being a bail bondsman. Or
I know. I thought that
something
was
similar to the original show. I thought, okay, that was weird. They could have very easily have made him a bounty hunter.
Yeah, and then the guy that he picked up is like, "Oh, I remember you. I worked on a movie with you." And that would be funnier because then you've got the same.
That would have been way funnier. Okay, I'll come along.
Yeah.
Hey, look who's arresting me. Hey, everyone. I worked with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I don't understand why they make some of these changes. Now, I know, like, to be a bounty hunter or bail bondsman, I think a lot of the rules have changed since then.
But the thing is, Hollywood make any rules that they want.
That's true. They don't usually care. Yeah.
They just wanted to put him at his absolute lowest ebb.
Oh, is that why?
That was really what they wanted to do. But I don't know. I mean, hanging around in the Appalachians, going after people with stills would have made for a much funnier low point than being in LA parking cars.
Yeah.
But let's move on from the box office a little bit. We got one super chat about it.
I was going to
Tony says for $5, saw The Mummy from 1999 at the theater, had a blast. Funny how a movie from 25 years ago has better quality and more complex CGI than current year stuff. Yeah, The Mummy holds up incredibly well. As for CGI, then I can only imagine that they must have touched the CGI up a little bit for the
first one was never a big problem. From what I remember, wasn't it the second one that had the horrendous CGI?
Yeah, the second one and the Scorpion King, that is something that belongs in the annals of bad CGI. So yeah, like that was some proper PlayStation 2 cutscene graphics right there. But
Didn't those
also the first movie, when you have like these scenes of ancient Egypt, like the contemporary. No, sorry, I'm confused here. Never mind. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with the CGI of the first.
I was gonna say the first one I don't think had a problem really.
No, so it begins in the second one, and then you had like more supernatural bullshit.
Because what you have here is an era where it's almost like you have a weird kind of demarcation mark. Because remember, Godzilla came out the year before this. A lot of people falsely assumed that a lot of that movie was CGI. You'd be surprised how much of that movie is not CGI. Same thing with Independence Day, which came out like 2 years before that. So we were getting used to this idea that a lot of this stuff was CGI when it wasn't. And then you had like The Mummy and a few of these other films that come out where they only had maybe a handful or maybe a dozen, maybe 20 some shots total that were CGI. And then you get into like 2001 when like Spider-Man comes out, or what year did Spider-Man come out? Was it
2002?
When Spider-Man comes out, like majority of Spider-Man, there's CGI in there that I didn't even know was CGI. Right. So that's where we get to this point where we're starting getting into more heavy usage, and the superhero craze started coming in. And you went from a dozen CGI shots in a movie on average to hundreds of CGI shots in a movie on average. And that's when the quality started dumping huge. Like, and that's where
more like hundreds to thousands, because the Mummy
to thousands. You're right. You're not wrong.
A lot of CGI, because remember, the actor was a motion cap suit, and he was decomposing or recomposing for the majority of that film. And the CGI is passable it was really good for the time, but it's passable by today's standards when you're dealing with effects and effects. But yeah, once we started getting away from the hundreds and into the thousands, now it's basically like, well, now your effects experts don't spend as much time on the rendering and the high detail rendering as required. And so what we get is we literally get stuff that's very close to the Mummy Returns CGI and today's standards and quality.
And the best way I always put that is look at the first Jurassic Park. There's literally, like, depending on who you ask, 52 or 54 CGI shots in the first film. There's literally like 3,000 shots in the last Jurassic Park film. Just keep that in mind. Like, that's how far they've gone in just 30 years.
The low point in CGI in movies is watching CGI battling CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Transformers,
might as well watch, DC cartoons. It's completely emotionless, worthless.
Paul, hold it right there, because you mentioned DC cartoon. Before we carry on with Star Wars and the celebration of May 4th and how Mark Hamill debased that, Tom, I believe there was a picture dropped of an upcoming DC cartoon, was there not, that maybe we can have the panelists' very first reaction to?
We do have one here. I was going to segue off the stuff we were talking about, though, to ask everybody how they felt about this Brave New World that came out this last weekend. What'd you think? Oh, that's right. It's been delayed by a year. I forgot. Well, the Happy Meals and shit hit the market. They evidently didn't. McDonald's is like, fuck y'all. Did you guys see this?
No.
Yeah. The Happy Meal is already out for Captain America 4 because they're like, fuck you. The movie's supposed to be out this week.
Someone forgot to delay someone forgot to send an email to a very important.
I think they just said, fuck you. We have it scheduled and we're not changing it, I think is what happened.
But it's supposed to be a synergy relationship. The movie drives people to McDonald's and McDonald's drives people to the movie. So with neither of them happening, McDonald's is actually going to see no change in their customer patronage.
And I think that's McDonald's basically saying that this stuff doesn't matter anyway. We haven't been selling it. Yeah. I think they're just saying we're moving on beyond it. We're not going to delay this and discombobulate our toy schedule just for Marvel anymore.
They would be better off having a Velma tie-in.
Yeah.
Honestly, at this point, you're not wrong.
Considering some of the crap I heard about the last season here, like, it almost sounds like it became half-assed self-aware by the end of the show from what some people were saying.
Paul liked it, apparently.
Because Scrappy Doo kills Thelma in one episode, and then she comes back from the dead to kill him or some shit somebody was saying. Like,
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, fine. But I just wanted to bring that up. That yeah, Captain America 4 was supposed to be out this next week here or whatever, but yeah, they moved the Planet of the Apes in there
That
instead.
is
But
funny.
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hold on to your socks and your underoos because we got our first look at Superman.
Oh,
Oh,
And he has trunks, kids.
that looks pretty good.
can you zoom in on the? Can you zoom in on that?
I will, yes.
Oh,
He's getting ready to go out and take care of something shooting in the sky in the background, evidently.
Yeah.
That
So,
looks
Paul,
like it's
there's your
attacking the
gear
Green Lantern.
porn. Superman is taking on his boot.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I do as well. I like to see the hero suit up and everything. So, and he's like, oh yeah, another day at the office. Doesn't look
Yeah.
too concerned. Doesn't look too excited. He's obviously
looks-
done this before. Suit has some battle damage and stuff.
He looks great.
Yeah.
And that suit is very chunky, is it not?
It's a
I'm
little
not so yeah. I'm not a big fan of how the suit's folding around him. Like this
I
is why
don't
you
like
shouldn't
the
go with that
collar.
rubber
That's
suit
too-
shit.
The collar is too communistish. The neck collar should be like a low cut neck with the cape going in. But aside from that, I think I like the boots. Yeah, it's got color to it. Like look at the blue around the knee area where it's not filthy. That's not bad actually. That's a good contrast.
You know what? My very first thought, absolute first thought, was this guy is ripped. He is just as ripped as Henry Cavill was, and my very first thought was that he should have like a tighter, more leotard-like suit to really
I
show
agree.
off that physique
Yeah.
like Cavill had. That's my first thought. But then my second thought is this suit right here. This kind of like emotes the suits that Chris Reeves had and Kirk Allen and those guys because that had more texture and more fabric to it. I mean, those suits that they had back in the serial days and the black and white days, they weren't that tight. Many of them, they were like jumpers almost. Well, tight fitting jumpers, but jumpers. This is a little bit of a throwback to that, which may be coincidental. I don't know what the design is, but
It's a little too new 52
classic
for
to
me. It's a little too new 52. It's a little too busy with all this. Like he shouldn't have done all this design shit. See, to
over
me,
designed is what you're trying to
yeah,
say.
yeah. Because the way the cape is, all this crap over his shoulders and on his arms and stuff. To me, that's too new 52. That's where the collar comes in.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
like that.
you're right.
And yeah, I agree with you. Like to me, the cape should always come up to to his neck, like it always.
You know what we've never seen? We've never seen Superman take off his boot and empty it of gravel.
Crap, yeah,
Actually, I think they might have done that in Lois and Clark.
probably.
Oh,
If there was any place they were going to,
that would be.
It
that
was
would
going to be there if there ever was such a place. Yeah, yeah. And
now, Ralph didn't have really a collar, but it did come up to his neck. I mean, it did
Yeah.
come up a lot higher.
And it made him look a lot slimmer than he actually was. And that's the other part too. It made it look slim and feminine. This one here, he looks bulky and wide, which is good. But I wonder what he'd look like as in a pose. 'Cause
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like it all folded up like that. That's where I wish they would have avoided the rubber suit look.
well, I do
Like, I don't-
believe that is intentional because here you don't see him like strutter his stuff or anything like that, and I think that's intentional for a first look, so that they can still impress people when we do get to see him in more Superman glory, when we get to see him looking at the camera or looking up at the sky.
Well, that part's
rather than
fine.
down a suit or something.
But what I'm getting at is like, and Script might know where I'm coming from. Like a lot of the costume people, this creasing shit that you have here is something that
Yeah.
drives them nuts. Like that's something they try to avoid on any of these costumes or anything like that. You don't want folding like that. Like that means something's not fitting right.
It means that it's too big for the body.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
His
will
suit
say
does
I'm
look too
glad you
big.
got the spit curl back. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that aspect. I like most of it. I'm not trying to dump on it. I guess I'm just being overly critical of it at this point. But
I like the fact that it's a nonchalant shot.
Yeah.
that part I like. It's not like a superhero pose like we're used to. 'Cause I remember the
Culture.
first Henry Cavill was him up against the
Thankful.
safe, and then
Yeah.
the first Brandon Routh was just him posing, a shot looking up at him. But anyway, sorry, go ahead, Andre.
Yeah, Cultured, we haven't heard too much from you other than seeing your very critical look.
I think a lot of what I don't like here in the costume is maybe lighting at this point, how it's being lit. It does seem like it's bunching up, and it does seem like it's padded out. And some of the design choices are a little rough. I'm not sure what these lines are that are in the suit, but again, overall, the fact that he's wearing trunks on the outside, it's the classic colors, albeit very dirty looking. I mean, it's not terrible. I was expecting much worse. So let's just be fair. So
I will say I have. This was just a pet peeve of mine. This is just there's nothing wrong with the choice per se. This is just me. But my personal favorite iteration of Superman is Max Fleischer's Superman, the animated series. That is my absolute favorite iteration of Superman. Yes, I realize that the Action Comics came first. That's awesome. Credit to the makers, but still, that's the one I'm nostalgic for. To me, the perfect Superman is a retro-futurist Superman that takes place in the 40s and that has kind of like that look. And I really enjoyed when Brandon Routh came back for that Kingdom Come special or whatever it was, that crossover thing that they did on TV.
That was their Crisis thing, actually.
That thing, yeah, because he had a suit which was the Kingdom Come suit, but by accident, or maybe not by that much by accident, it looked like the Max Fleischer Superman suit. I had a dream that this would look more like that and go back to the Max Fleischer emblem. It was never going to happen because basically that had like the same basic shape, and then it's pure black with an S on top of it, no yellow at all. But still, that's my personal favorite Superman emblem, and still they went with the more established classic, which I don't blame them for. But still, like the nostalgia fan in me would have loved to see a suit more in line with the Max Fleischer design, which is nigh on 100 years old by now. But still, yeah,
it's a classic.
Yeah, exactly. It's a classic.
That's a great cartoon. The Max.
It is too bad they botched the Blu-ray release.
Oh,
yeah. I'll have to launch a petition for Warner Archive to take over and do a re-release.
So I guess I have to correct myself. For some reason, even though it still wasn't enough for Mr. Lucas to release the rest of the films, Phantom Menace actually did twice as good in its 3D release as this did.
What? Really?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
For some reason, I thought it did worse.
I thought it flopped too because I
did 8 million only on Friday alone.
Vanishing after that.
I was right because I kind of like felt that this 8 million that seems low for Star Wars.
It is very low.
But I didn't fact check that in advance. But yeah, that's where I was going. But anyway, now we have the facts. So then we are left with. Fans are still coming for Star Wars, for good Star Wars, but not as many as have come for good Star Wars before, when there was more good Star Wars available relative to playing time. So that should, if anything, be a warning to Disney. And while we are on that topic, this weekend was May 4th. Which Disney has made the official celebration of Star Wars in a sense. And an actor associated with Star Wars, took it upon himself to do a press release, a highly politicized one at that. And this story was, of course, all over the place, but the one that I have here, the one that I have ready, is from our good friends over at Fandom Pulse, who has to write up, Mark Hamill ruins May the 4th. Be with you by calling Joe Biden the Joe B1 Kenobi at White House press conference. And I'm like thinking, normally you want to try to steer clear of partisan politics, because whenever you do that, you tend to lose half the audience. In entertainment, you want to win over as many as possible, regardless of what they vote for. But I do believe that in this day and age, by doing this, you may actually lose more than half the audience. So, did
Wow.
Disney sign off on this? And if they did, what the hell were they smoking?
That's right. I'm Jabroni Carboni.
Well,
So,
for
yeah.
starters, the White House most likely asked Mark Hamill and Disney if they
course.
could do this, because
course.
it's not like Mark Hamill went up to the White House and said, "Hey, can I talk to your press team?" No, he would never do that. But so yeah, this is, for lack of a better term, a form of propaganda. Getting a celebrity endorsement of a politician is always foolish, in my opinion.
So they lost The Rock, who wouldn't endorse anymore, and so their runner-up was Mark Hamill. It kind of seems a little bit like a downgrade, if you ask me.
I think there was probably 6 or 7 in between there they couldn't get.
Probably.
I think there are a lot of the stars are coming around to the idea that this kind of endorsement ruins them. I mean, The Rock ran away from it as quickly as he could in this latest
He
period
did.
of time.
We get that, but Hayden Christensen actually did a message with Justin Trudeau this weekend for the May the 4th as well.
Oh God, really?
It was a Skype
That
call.
tells me this is Disney.
Could be, yeah.
Neo-Marxism.
That's too many to be a coincidence then.
Well, I mean, they paired it up because, of course, Hayden Christensen's from Canada, lives in Toronto.
That's what I
the
mean.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I hadn't even heard about that before you let me know right now.
Oh, you didn't see it? It was
Neither did
over.
I, but now that I know that, I'm almost positive this was set up by Disney then.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, obviously, like it obviously began with Disney.
Not only that, Disney's been trying to copyright the 4th of May for how long now?
Since they got Star Wars, actually.
That's my point. They're trying to turn it into a national fucking holiday is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, because it's never been a holiday. It's just been a Star Wars fan thing that went around.
And it was
Star
actually
Wars
something
Day
that pisses
is
most
like 3
fans
weeks from
off,
now.
to be honest with you. Yes, exactly, Script. I was going to say, and it pisses most actual Star Wars fans off because they're like, that is stupid. We get it. You're being cute and punny, but Star Wars Day is May 25th, not the 4th. Sorry.
No, the 4th is like the Christmas Eve to Christmas.
But I don't even care anymore. I used to give a crap, but I don't. I used to watch Star Wars every May 25th. Not anymore. You're right. It used to be like Nerd Christmas.
Yeah, the 25th would be the Christmas day, but the May the 4th would be your Christmas Eve. It's like, oh, we're getting ready. Here it is. Here's our significant day to.
That's when you watch the prequels.
Sure, maybe. But like again, it's lost its luster because Disney took the brand, took advantage of the brand, and thought that the brand could weather anything they did, and that's the first mistake you make whenever you get a brand, is you forget what made the brand to the brand. And now we've got Mark Hamill at the request of Disney coordinating with the White House in a really terrible speech. Mark Hamill has turned into Anakin Skywalker. He's shilling for the current power in office, as Anakin did when he became Darth Vader.
Well, and I didn't get to see their whole report yet, but I do remember, so correct me if I'm wrong, Culture, or anybody who's seen it. But didn't WDW Pro just leak that Luke is supposed to be in the Mandalorian movie?
Yeah, that's not really a surprise.
No, but I mean, I think there's a reason why this is all happening at the same time. Like, yeah, they brought him back into the fold, was my point, because they got to pay him a little bit for that, even if they own.
Yeah,
his
there are
likeness,
more
right?
people who are reporting that actually. So yeah, there's been reports about that going back at least a week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but bringing Mark Hamill back for a Star Wars movie after not having a Star Wars movie in theaters for the last 5 years, it's kind of a no-brainer. Even if it is going to be like a technically a prequel to the sequel trilogy since we're in that area. It's not clever, and it's actually kind of derivative and boring. And at this point, it's really just
I
a
don't think you'll
stunt.
get any arguments there.
Yeah, it's just a stunt right now, just to say, hey, do you want to see Luke Skywalker back on screen after that great appearance he did in the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian? Well, if that's the Luke Skywalker you're bringing, no, I don't want to see that, because that's not Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, and also, but this is the thing that I'm thinking as well, namely that with Mark Hamill doing all this kind of stuff, like he's not winning over any fans doing this. But could the opposite happen? Could his public persona tarnish Luke Skywalker? If you catch my drift.
I think we're hitting that point. It could, because this got a lot of reaction and not in a good way.
No, I see nothing but negative reaction and ridicule.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if Disney set this up, fine, but like, because my whole reaction to this was, oh, okay, cool, you got to go to the White House because this motherfucker has TDS so bad, he wants to suck Biden's you know what so bad. But I'm like, all it took for you to get here was to destroy Luke Skywalker. And I know Rian Johnson and all these other people played a big role in this, and I know you and I kind of debated this a little bit, Script. Here's the thing. Mark Hamill didn't have this massive career before the Star Wars sequels. In fact, he was pretty much a footnote. The biggest thing he had done. My point is the only reason he was at the White House is because of those fucking movies. Because otherwise, nobody's been talking about Mark Hamill. Nobody was going to invite him to the White House if it wasn't for the Star Wars sequels, because nobody had been talking about it. He'd been retired as a voice actor for the most part, barely doing voices. He wasn't even doing the Joker anymore, right? He's not been in any movies. To me, it was like, okay, so
he's been steadily working since 1988.
Yeah,
look at
but
his IMDb.
in what? How many other voice actors do you see at the White House, Script? That's my point.
Well, that's different because, again, this is most likely something being pushed by Disney, right?
It is.
It's hyperbolic to say he hasn't been in anything in the last 20 years when you can actually check this out and verify he has. He's worked quite frequently.
He has been in many things. He is a working actor.
He's a character actor.
What Tom is getting at is how many high-profile thing that wide audiences are familiar with has he been in the past 20 years.
Just the Batman series. That's it.
Tom, I think you're being disingenuous. I mean, acting is a weird business at the best of time, and any one movie can catapult an actor into stardom. I would say that we talked about it already. Iron Man is pretty much worthless outside of the suit, and that's just the nature sometimes of this business. And the fact remains that obviously Hamill's career is not what made him famous, which is I think what you're saying.
Yeah,
but this one role. I think that's exactly the point, that he doesn't have the
broadest of fame, but his fame is niche to Star Wars and the DC universe. Yes. And niche is suitable, not small.
But Luke isn't niche.
He's suitable. Yeah.
Christ, when he was on The Simpsons, the whole joke was that all he had was Luke Skywalker.
It doesn't matter.
Like, that's my point.
Yeah, but Luke is so huge, it doesn't matter. He is. Yeah. He's almost the quality.
It still doesn't make me wrong.
Exactly the same point.
It still doesn't make me wrong, is my point. But knowing that Disney probably put him up to this, but he loved it because he was having the time of his life, coming off like an idiot.
And good for him, but I would say that Disney are the bigger idiots for signing up for this or signing off on it, whether they initiated it or whether they agreed to it. This only goes to show how badly the TDS is within the halls of Disney as well, because someone there should have figured out that Star Wars is in a state of crisis right now, and this is something that is being reported from multiple outlets, that there is a growing realization within the halls of Disney that they've screwed this up. WDW Pro released a video just a couple of hours ago where they argued that they realize now that the problem is that Star Wars is no longer a boy brand, and they need to address that and go back to it being a boy brand again. Now, can they do that with their team? I don't know. But this is definitely not the way to do it.
What did he say? Did he say anything at the conference that would have embarrassed himself?
He was there. That was enough. He was there, and he referred to Biden as Joe B1 Kenobi.
That's not
Now,
so.
this
That's
is
harmless.
it may be harmless, but it's a matter of optics, because it's a matter of, here you have someone who is an actor speaking for themselves, and that is one thing. But at some point, the actor is difficult to separate from the character, especially when it's Disney, and they've done this over and over again, where you had like Marvel fundraising events for the Democratic Party, which they've had before, and everything.
Okay. Aren't you falling into tribalism now, though? So right now, Biden is a president. Right now, it's the Democratic White House.
Yes.
That's it. That just happens to be it. Is the mere fact that this actor is appearing at the Democratic version of the White House right now is what he needs to be tarred and feathered for? I disagree. I mean, he's a celebrity, has some fun. If he had shown up,
and that's perfectly fine. But honestly, I think it is. I think not necessarily he so much, but certainly Disney does, in a sense, deserve to be tarred and feathered for it, and I think they're going to be, because
And I think
yes, carry on.
Well, I was just gonna say, and I think where you're coming from, Andre, at least from my perspective on this, is that look at this situation, how the media is handling it compared to how the media is treating The Rock right now for what he come out and said. You would have thought he come out and said, "I hate puppies and I want to kill babies."
Yeah, all he said is, "I'm not telling you who I'm voting for." That's all he said.
And all of a sudden, now they're coming after him. Like, why is that? That, I think, is the bigger problem here, is the double standard that we're having in the media right now, and how celebrities are being treated. And I don't even really care for The Rock all that much. Like, I literally, like, am at best, I don't hate him, but I don't like him. But at this point, I'm going, you guys are like trying to drag his ass through the mud just because he said, "I regretted, promoting this president." Who's to say he's even saying he's not saying I promote Trump. What he's saying is, I wish I hadn't gotten political.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
See, and that's what they're twisting. And it's the same thing what they do to Chris Pratt and some of these other people too. And the media is holding this up like it was some amazing fucking thing. It looked sad to me. It was fucking sad and depressing.
Well, his suit was sad and depressing.
That too.
Yeah. I think the whole thing is, honestly, because again, this is politics are partisan, and yeah, of course you can say that I fall into the trenches, but really I do it more from a commentary point of view, because entertainment companies, they need to reach the widest possible audience, and by doing a stunt like this as an entertainment company, you are by default excluding half your audience. And I imagine, just looking at polls and everything, that in this case they're excluding and alienating more than half their audience. And when you have the Acolyte coming in a couple of weeks here,
I can hardly wait.
In a state of crisis, I don't think that this is the right optics.
You know what? If he wanted to boost Biden's chances of becoming president, he should have brought Baby Yoda.
There's but the other part too is like, who doesn't matter who's in the political office right now. An actor doing this is really a bad move overall.
Exactly. It would be the same thing if it was the reverse. Yeah. If this was, let's say that we were right now in that this was 4 years ago, that we were in the spring of 2020, where with the Orange Man in the box office, in the White House, looking to be reelected, and this guy or someone else came out and they endorsed that, I would have said exactly the same thing then. As an entertainment company, you don't take sides on this. You want to please everyone, no matter where they stand politically. But this is taking sides. This is him taking sides. He is a face of Star Wars for quite a few, and Disney endorsed on this, so this is them taking sides as well. Of course, there's no doubt of where they stand, but this is just further affirming it, just further reminding everyone that if you don't vote the way that you do, we don't really like you. and feel free to take your money and spend it elsewhere. Which indeed is what we see is happening. But I just don't think that this is a very bright move, regardless of who one chooses to endorse. It's not a matter of who you choose, but that you're doing it in the first place. No good can come from it. Again, look at the Rockstar example. He went out and publicly endorsed last time out. The only thing he said this time was, I'm not going to do any more endorsements. It's a private matter. Everyone figure out for themselves. You do you. That's the right thing to say, but it came too late, because now the one side probably haven't forgiven him for the last time, and the other side, well, they now hate him because he didn't do it again, and the industry trades are against him. I mean, now you have like stories about him peeing in bottles and stuff like that, which are framed in a way to try to humiliate him and denigrate him.
That's to recover his steroid use and save money. I think what's most interesting about this discussion is that we have a Norwegian and a Canadian arguing over this.
Yeah. Well, I think the Americans probably are out-argued enough already. And we're still in May. Still many more months to go.
I hear Darth.
I am here to promote the candidate that I think will handle things best. So, when you go out and vote Bernie Sanders.
Cultured, we haven't heard much from you here.
No, well, it's mostly because I align with what you've been saying, Andre, and I agree. In Paul, unfortunately, tribalism is what we have both in your country and in our country.
Well, everywhere.
Right. Well, they've selectively made that all they're focused on is dividing us and trying to, bring about this social change across the globe. So you will own nothing and you'll be happy.
Well, I would take it up 30,000 feet and say the people in the know don't care about the specifics. They're just happy that they've managed to get two very divided groups at each other, because that's what will give them power. So we are just pawns in a very much bigger game.
Yep.
You can't argue with you, but what I will say, even if you do take the bird's eye view, is that Andre's right. There's no winner here. By him doing this, he's basically saying, "Oh, you know what? I've decided to align with the empire," and that's basically what it is. I'm for global domination, world leadership. I'm not an American. I'm not Canadian. I'm a globalist. And
as they call
it. What I enjoy, what I enjoy is that you have the smiling face of the most disliked spokesperson in the history of the White House smiling right behind him. And I think that's a great moment.
She's not very good at her job. I can't stand watching her. The person who
I miss Sarah Huckabee Sanders because she was hysterical.
I was going to say she actually makes her look good.
Part of that job is standing in front and just taking all the bows and arrows, but you're not supposed to lie about it. I think one of the reasons that they took Smith Mundt out here in the United States,
lie about it. Conway was brilliant.
One of the reasons that they pulled that out from underneath us is so that the government could lie to us because it was just more convenient. So, because prior to that changing, the government was not supposed to or allowed to lie to us. It was criminal. Now it's not so much. So the fact that she can go up there and stumble and say that we don't have difficulty, at our southern border, she can do that all day because she's allowed to lie now. It's a problem. But anyway, so the fact that he's aligning himself with anybody is always going to be a problem. I think it's always the best practice not to, if you're in this sphere, not to align with one political party or another. It's hard enough to be us in our fellowship, and we're aligning with the opposite side of the conversation that YouTube approves of, or any of these other platforms do. So it's like, well, when we point out the hypocrisy or any of these other things, we get pummeled because of the tribalism that you mentioned, Paul. But at the same time, this will serve nobody. He has lived long enough to become the villain, and he will die as the villain. We will look at him as Darth Vader, but he doesn't have a redemption arc. Right now, this guy has made it so he has no redemption arc. Everybody deserves
Well,
one.
you
He
have
won't get
so
one.
those people that have redemption arcs are those that actually have come out and admitted past mistakes. There's still hope for them, at least in the eyes of one side. Maybe
He
not
just
the
needs
other.
one of his kids to say, "Father, I see the good in you. What are you doing?"
Yeah. Exactly. Either way, we don't want to devolve too much into politics. The only times we do is, as you see on the screen, when our entertainment does. Then it's
Well,
kind of difficult.
And we kind of
not-
have a couple places we can segue with this. We can either talk about the crappy Acolyte trailer, or we can talk about the other things that Pro was saying. And this is where I wonder because this doesn't add up and compute with it. Because now finding out that the whole, what Script told us about Hayden and Trudeau, I'm like, okay, that's a Disney thing. It's got to be. So let's go from that angle and assume that. I'm not so sure what Pro's been saying is 100. I wouldn't say, okay, I'm curious as to why they're doing this, because from what Pro is reporting is that Disney is starting to lean back into trying to make Star Wars a boys brand again. And that goes along with why they're supposedly bringing back Luke Skywalker and the Mandalorian and all that stuff in the next movie. And it's going to be a little bit more boy oriented, I guess, is what he's kind of reporting. So, but to seeing this to me just makes me go, Disney ain't changed. Nothing's changing, right? So I don't know. Have you guys heard on that? What do you guys think on that?
I have heard from multiple places, including WDW Pro, that I will do a more deep dive into the various places where this is coming from. But and to me, that's kind of like an issue if they really are doing that, and also if there's truth to what's being reported from multiple places that they want to bring Mark Hamill back as Luke Skywalker again. Stuff like this is just going to soil that moment. Like, you'll never have that big surprise and reveal that you had at the end of The Mandalorian season 2. Because now it's already been. You're not going to have that moment again, and it'll be good to have him, but him doing this in his personal life is just going to soil Luke Skywalker, because you're not going to be able to separate the two. That is kind of like I'm not going to say concern, because I was never that emotionally engaged, but that would be a thought that I have, both for the fans and for Disney. When you see Luke Skywalker on screen again, it's going to be very difficult to or at least more difficult than before, to separate the art from the artist when you have the artist doing stuff like this, whether Disney set him up for it or not.
Now that Script tells me this stuff about the Trudeau thing, this almost makes his one post make me wonder if he's not being paid to do a lot of this stuff.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
we already knew that, but I mean, like, this feels like this isn't like something that's come along recently. Like, he's been brought back into the fold, and we already know he was on board with the whole Biden thing anyway, because that's, he's got TDS worse than anybody probably.
With the possible exception of Robert De Niro, because that guy, he doesn't even.
The only one,
he has full psychosis.
Don't forget about Meathead. Meathead said he'd burn himself alive if Trump won again.
Who?
And I'm just hoping he sells pay-per-view.
Agree. Yes.
What's his face?
Rob Reiner.
Yeah, Rob Reiner. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I know. I mean, those guys are full on psychosis. It's worth that arrangement at this point.
Yeah, between the three of them, they should just make a movie and have Michael Moore direct it.
Well, it's an interesting point when you're dealing with the potential entertainment and tribalism and tension between groups. I mean, right now, I would love Reiner to direct a movie with James Woods in it. Like, you need to cross the barrier to create art, and tension is part of art. And you just can't surround yourself with sycophants who 100% say and believe what it is that we're saying and doing, because that just does not make interesting art.
Yeah.
You
No,
know what's
good
funny
point.
is Rob Reiner's directing his first movie in what? Help me out, script. 10 years, 5 years at least.
Script is on the
Oh, he
phone, I
stepped
believe.
aside. Yeah.
No,
Well,
don't know.
he's doing Spinal Tap 2.
Oh no.
I'm not kidding you.
Well, I mean, if they get into the what is it? Not Jerry. If they're getting to geriatric rock, then I think it's an absolute fantastic opportunity, right? I mean, I just saw a video with Deep Purple's latest song. They just released their latest single off their new album, Deep Purple, and Gillian is in it. The original
I
drummer's in
thought
it.
most of them were dead.
No,
Holy cow.
well, the keyboard, John Lord is dead, and Blackmore is still playing, but he's not. He's not.
Oh, I'm sure they're gonna see. I'm not so worried about Spinal Tap 2 because
But that would
here's
be
one
funny.
thing.
That's a light romp. That's not going to cost a
Well,
lot.
and Rob is generally, but I haven't seen his last few films because I was looking here just out of curiosity. Like his last movie was a movie called Shock and Awe, and then he did LBJ and stuff like that. So he got a little political near the end there, it looks like, here in the last few years.
I heard
Other than
LBJ
that,
was good.
normally his movies, he keeps his politics out of it. Right? Like you couldn't pinpoint exactly what he's maybe The American President is probably one of his more political films, but even that doesn't have a lot of politics in it.
Well, I
It's more
mean,
about the love story. So
Norman Jewison did many political films. I would say Fist is a very political film.
but anyway, we're getting off topic here.
Yeah,
But
anyway.
on the topic of Star Wars, so we'll have to see if it actually goes to the boy brand. We'll have to see if it has any effect on the Mandalorian going forward. But what we do know is that the Acolyte is just getting bombarded with negativity online. Have you guys seen this trailer yet?
Yeah. So, are we supposed to believe that little tiny nothing has been going around with a shiv, offing? I was going to say Time Lords, Jedi's. Is that what this?
I guess
woman-
that's the plot.
that's
If it's
going
a
around.
woman, then yes. I haven't seen the trailer, but if it's a woman doing it, then yeah, obviously. I mean, the
Those
Force
things
is
are-
female. You know this.
These are lousy Jedi's.
This is basically if it's a weird twist on Kill Bill, it feels like.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Because it would be like if Hattori Hanzo decided that he was going to go take out Bill and Bill was a woman. That's kind of what it feels like. Because, Hattori Hanzo, if you remember in Kill Bill, he's like, I ain't going to help you. I ain't going to do nothing. I don't do that anymore until she says who it is that she's going to go kill. Then he's like, fuck.
It was too bloody.
We'll do your story.
I didn't watch Kill Bill. Too bloody.
Yeah. He's like, that's my fault, right? It's like, my bad. Bill's my fault. So that's kind of what I get out of this. So the story seems like it could be interesting, but the next thing I know, I get bombarded with like boofy haired Jedi guy and a bunch of other Jedi people I don't care about. I'm surprised they didn't shove Yoda or something in here just to give us, nostalgic willies or something. But
They got the Squid Game guy in it.
yeah.
Yeah, it does.
And the Squid Game would have made a much more interesting series.
Season
I
2 is
think
around the
most
corner,
people
plus the
would.
live game show version of it. coming
That
out.
was the live game show version was very interesting. Anyway, that's another.
No, that's about how much interest it is in the fucking.
When's it debuting? When's the Acolyte debuting? Disney
this
Plus?
summer, isn't it?
Oh,
Doesn't it debut on Star Wars Day?
No, that was just they dropped the trailer for it on Star Wars Day.
No, Star Wars Day is the May 20.
Oh, you mean the actual Star Wars
Yeah,
Day?
real Star
Sorry,
Wars Day. No, it's June 4th. It's supposed to drop.
I was gonna
So,
say I thought it was this summer. I thought
the week after. Yeah.
Yeah, we still have a month to brace ourselves.
wow.
Indeed.
I'm going to make
Indeed.
sure I'm in my RV.
Yeah.
Well, we've got some super chats on this subject, and then we're going to get into some video gaming news, and I'm sure we got some gamers out there. So, yeah. Vincetto Beretta sends in 10 euros. Thank you so very much. Says, Mark Hamill was always half here, half here. He was the first to say that TLJ was bad. His speeches at Oxford and Cambridge were great. Then he was also woke. Then he also has also woke inclinations. People are complex. Well, I think the worst part is just he's gone so far off the deep end the last few years. That's
Yes.
my problem with him.
Disney, Brian Johnson, and The Last Jedi broke who Mark Hamill was. Because if you ever saw him at conventions, and if you ever saw him do other like impromptu interviews and stuff, he understood what fans are, and he understood and was grateful for what he had. But like Tom, you have that moment where Mark Hamill's just staring at Brian Johnson with like daggers, and I'm like, that's probably the last of Mark Hamill we'll ever see from that point on. And guess what? It has been the case. He's pretty unrecognizable. The only time you get a hint of who he kind of is at his core is when you see those TMZ videos where they're filming him signing autographs to people who some are genuine fans and others are just going to sell that stuff on eBay in an hour. But
He basically
he
learned.
never wants to turn someone down that might be potentially a fan that really is happy about his work.
I wish I could feel sorry for him, but I don't. He signed on the dotted line. He knew what he was doing. He sold his soul to the devil for more money than he's probably ever seen in his entire life. He knew when he was sitting in that round, when they were sitting there and doing the script for Force Awakens, and he was just reading the stage direction, that he was not even going to be in the fucking movie. He doesn't even have a line, and he even turns to JJ, and he said this himself. He goes, "Why am I even here?" Because at this point, that's when I would have been like, look, I know I'm not like a big actor, and I'm not trying to pick on him again, but like that's where he could have swung his weight around a little bit and be like, look, I'm Luke fucking Skywalker. You can't talk about me the whole movie and just bring me in at the last minute. Right? He should have fought for it at that point.
Oh no, he definitely should have. But the thing is, those types of behaviors are considered difficult and ungrateful because and Mark Hamill understands where his position was.
Then he should have
overall.
walked.
He should have, but he didn't because number one, he didn't want to be disrespectful to the fandom that would be excited to see him back. At the same time, he also didn't want to burn the bridges that were the people that now are the stewards of Star Wars. He wasn't like Bruce Willis, who basically could say, "Hey, if I leave, Die Hard leaves with me," in order to fight for Kevin Smith to rewrite that speech and live free and die hard, what have you. He doesn't have that cloud, and he knows that. He was in a rock and a hard place. So the two things he could do is say, "Okay, I'll leave," in which case many of the fans leading up to that first movie would probably have hated Mark Hamill for saying, "I'm not coming back," and then
maybe
have to deal with. No, they would definitely hate him leading up to
I don't know.
Once they see it, they'll probably be like, if Mark Hamill was in this, it'd probably be better. Like it's far more likely that would always be the case, is that if he didn't show up, everybody would argue it would be better if Mark Hamill was in it.
I disagree with you to a point. I think the fans would have gotten their noses would have gone, okay, something's up here. Because there wasn't a lot of fans who were too keen on Star Wars being bought by Disney in the first fucking place.
No, me especially.
The only reason they came on board is when they heard that, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher were coming back. That's when everybody got on board. And if Mark would have walked at that point, I think a good majority of the fans would have been like, okay, that's a big red flag. Something is going on here that is not good. I'm not saying you're wrong that some people wouldn't have gone, oh, fuck him. But I think at that
the
point,
majority would, and then the minority would be like, something's up. Because again,
I think
the
it's the
majority
flip,
doesn't ever
but
pick up on the subterfuge that's going on. It's always the minority that does.
And I think you are both right. I think it's a matter of time. I think that script would have been right before the movie came out, and then after people had time to digest it, then probably it would flip and see, oh yeah, no, something really was wrong here, and he was right all along. To Tom's point, that's what I think would have happened in time. In the meantime, though, a lot of people would have given Mark Hamill a lot of shit for not being there. But at the same time, it's something he could have done. One example to bring up here: Star Trek Generations.
Yep.
Leonard Nimoy, Spock, was offered to come back for a little role in that movie, just like a select other of the bridge crew of the original movies to pass off the baton. And as far as I know,
also asked too.
Yeah, Nimoy declined because he disagreed with the size of his role and the nature of his role. Don't know the details about it, but either way, he decided that this is not something that he wanted to be part of. I'm sure he would have appreciated the paycheck, but he decided that as an actor and protecting the integrity of his character, he decided not to do it. Shatner did do it because he had a much more beefy role, but I think in retrospect, might have been better if he too had declined to come back for that.
But I
particular role.
remember at that point vividly, a lot of Star Trek fans are very upset that Nimoy wasn't going to come back to
Yeah,
be shoulder to
that's
shoulder with him
yeah,
until after you saw the movie, and they're like, "Oh wait, yeah, Nimoy was right. The lines could have been
exactly.
said by anybody," because that was his point. Is he said, "I'll come if we rewrite the script so that my character actually has lines, but these lines can be said by anybody." They said no, and then they literally got Chekhov and Scotty to say those lines, which literally could be said by anybody.
Exactly. So yeah, but anyway, that's the path no longer taken, to put it that way. Let's see if there's
And then
some
Joel
more
Rees
topic
says,
things on this.
who's been a member for 33 months, says Disney has one single chance to save Star Wars, and they give Tony Gilroy full creative control and time. Of course, that will never happen.
Oh, Tony's not going to save Star
I
Wars.
was
Tony's
gonna
going to turn Star Wars into Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's necessarily the way to go with that either. Yeah.
Tony doesn't get Star Wars.
Didn't Tony do
Andor?
Andor, and I didn't think that was. I thought it was the beginning of something interesting.
Well, he
Interesting.
also
Missing the
reshot.
point of Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah, he also reshot Rogue One, and I'm curious to see what Gareth Edwards' version of that was.
Yeah.
Because let's not forget, that's one we constantly overlook when we talk about Kathleen Kennedy's snafus. People forget that she had another director come in and probably reshoot close to half of the film.
Almost.
Because a bunch of those first trailers aren't even in the movie.
True.
Then we got Pinochet here. Go ahead.
Yeah, Pinochet's helicopter tour says for $5. Thank you, Disney and Roundhead Ryan, for eliminating Luke Skywalker. Had no idea how much I'd benefit from removing an insufferable Mark Hamill from LF, Lucasfilm, I guess. Yeah, well, he's not gone yet. Let's see what else you guys are saying on this particular topic before we move on. No, I think that's it for Star Wars.
Well, we do have this one on the Fall Guy that we talked about earlier. Magnus Toth says with $20. Thank you so much, Magnus. Why don't they let Fall Guy be a bounty hunter? Progressive have been trying to get rid of cash bail for years.
Oh, it's always
that's a good question.
Sequel. This was the origin story. You can always do that in the sequel, I guess. Of course, if there is a sequel, which is not looking likely.
We don't know the actual answer, but I think Script would probably be able to answer us. What is the motivation usually behind these kind of changes when you're adapting one of these things? Is it something like a producer asked for, an actor asked for? Is it just you're trying to do something different? Where do these things usually come from? I know there's not a simple answer to it, but
it usually is always about just trying to be new and different that can echo the core but stand apart so that people are like, oh, this is fascinating, this is interesting. It's when you give people the same thing over like in TV, but you do it for movies, they get desensitized a lot quicker. For television, it's always a new story, but it follows the exact same formula, kind of resets at the end, given except for exclusive series, and it's comfort food. Movies are not supposed to be comfort food. They're supposed to be like bigger, entertaining draws. So you have to give them something that they can't see on television. And so they do that by whatever means they can, and it's always usually low-hanging fruit. So in this case, it's like, well, we'll get rid of the bounty hunter aspect, but we'll make it more of a romantic comedy. That's your bigger, different angle that they wanted to go with, even though I would argue that some of the classic episodes of The Fall Guy have some romantic comedy in them. So it's really just out of desperation, just to kind of, plant their flag into the timeline of what that franchise is, to say, yep, there's my contribution. That's what I did. Thank you very much. I hope you love it. See you tomorrow type of deal.
And the evil producer role got fleshed out more by having her send this stunt guy to do something that is out of his comfort zone.
There's that too. Yeah.
See, because I mean, I can sometimes see it for reasons like, I'll give you a good example, at least in my opinion. Look at the 76 remake of Kong. Of course, the original film, it was Carl Denham trying to make a film and all that kind of stuff, and that was actually loosely based on the people that actually made King Kong. But when they got to the 1970 one, they decided to make it an oil company in a race to try and get to the island just because they think it's, you know, chock full of oil. I actually like that change. I think it makes more sense and gives the motivation for them going there a little bit more reason is just, you know, randomness kind of because, oh, we know this island's there. We're going to go shoot a film there. You know, I mean, I like that original film. Don't get me wrong. I will say the original film's better at all times, but that update to me makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes those kind of things make sense. Other times I'm just scratching my head going, why?
Well, Burton's Planet of the Apes made no sense.
That's a great example of changes for no good fucking reason. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think all of us who have bought into the Burton brand, and I think, you know, he's allowed to do good and bad work. I mean, he doesn't do bad work intentionally. That was a really weird movie.
Yeah, because it's weird for the sake of being weird. Like one of the aspects to Tom's point on the remake of King Kong is that they gave a sense of urgency, goals, and a secondary story. There's another objective as to why they're going to the island, and when they found Kong, that changed their objective, and so they had something else to run with. So you've got some. It's not like they're just going there to shoot a movie, which is kind of low stakes, not really important, kind of doesn't have much risk going on it. But we're like, oh, we're going there to get oil because this will have very lucrative stuff for our industry and whatnot. And then you're like, oh, there's a giant ape here that can also be an attraction or something fascinating for us to research, and we can make even more money off of that than the oil, right? So now you've got the same motivation of money, but you've deterred from, you know, a resource to a creature.
Yeah, no, and it's just I like motivation is important to me, especially coming from a writer and actor aspect.
Yeah, indeed. But let's
anyway move on
from there. We still had a couple of super chats on because it refreshed in the background here for me. Packing Protons says for $5. Sometimes a celebrity gets so unlikable that you can't separate actor from character. Mark has reached that point. Yeah,
that's my problem.
Everyone Big Boss SB says for $9.99. Riddle me this: who is Hamill trying to reach with this speech? Gen Zs and younger millennials don't give a damn about him, and people our age don't buy into far-left ideology, so this only hurts him. Well, not financially in the short term.
There's nothing. He's not trying to reach anyone. He's just a paid person who is told to show up at the opening of a new mall.
This is an influencer assignment.
Yes, exactly.
This is as bad as the scene from Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, in a sense, yes. He may personally have the conviction, but in principle, yes. But it's a gig that it's going to not further his brand with the fans. Let's put it that way. And Packing Protons also says for $5. Mark Hamill, Rob Paulson, Gray DeLille, and especially John DiMaggio sadly are all corrupted by the dark side these days, par for the cause. And Action.com wonders for $5. Script: do you or the panel remember a time when involving the opposite of the president could be fun instead of feeling manipulative?
Not for the United States, but in Canada, we had a number of very funny events in the 90s where our politicians would participate with comedians at their own expense.
Oh, yeah.
We had a show called This Hour's 22 Minutes where we would have fake comedians that were posing as news reporters and very extreme news reporters, making fun of them, pulling up on them. There's a great character named Marg Delahunty who would talk to all like members of parliament and the prime minister. And the funny part too is that the members of parliament would actually know that character. Like she in that show kind of had a ripple effect across the country to where political representatives would actually play into the comedy and be the butt of the joke and have no problem with it. Because in Canada, for a very long time, we always felt like being in politics was the worst job you could have and the most boring thing you could do with your life. Because wouldn't you want to make an impact on people's lives? Because that's how our political system was kind of framed, just getting the basics done and leaving the rest of us alone for quite a while, with a couple of peaks and valleys in regards to larger situations.
Rick Mercer from the Rick Mercer Report interviewed Prime Minister Chrétien at a burger joint.
Yeah, at a Harvey's.
At a Harvey's. It was really low key, very human.
There was no Secret Service or any protection. It was just the two guys and a camera crew and regular patrons all around them as they just talked and drank.
And it showed off Chrétien's sense of humor because he would pepper him with very jokey questions. It was neat. It was a very human.
I honestly think the only time, at least in my lifetime, and culture might remember this better. I mean, there might have been some moments prior to that with certain other presidents and things like that, but it seemed like in a point somewhere around the mid '80s up through the mid '90s, it seemed like almost all politicians were on the table to be made fun of, regardless of what side of the aisle they were on. We even had shows like, I don't even know if anybody else on the panel remember this, but it was called Capital Follies? I think it was. It was a Sid and Marty Krofft show where they were all puppets of all the politicians and some celebrities and stuff like that, and they hung out at a bar. It was like Cheers, and they made fun of both sides equally. Even SNL seemed to hit both sides equally at that point. I could be wrong, but that to me felt like the only time it was kind of balanced.
No, you're absolutely right. That was one of my favorite things to watch way back when, because Sid and Marty Krofft's creations were incredible. Right?
DC Follies, that's what it was. DC Follies. Sorry.
And they were used in that Genesis music video too.
Yeah, the same guy. Yeah, the same kind of stuff.
Confusion.
Yeah. And there was another fantastic series that was very short-lived, ended after 9/11 by the makers of South Park, called That's My Bush.
Right. Yes, I remember that show.
That was awesome.
Fucking hilarious.
That was very, very.
The satires and the comedy against politicians or around politicians is one thing, but I mean, actually,
I'm talking about a balance.
About the involvement. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about action questions about the involvement of politicians that could be fun, like them going. I think one of the points would probably be like what Bill Clinton playing the saxophone on Arsenio before he became president when he's
that's what I mean. That era,
like that's different. That because again, commentary against politicians has been a thing for decades, centuries, if not, because you have the court jester making fun of the king. So the question is like, has there ever been a moment where you'd have presidents or politicians getting involved in the fictional aspect of making them the butt of their jokes? And it's been few far between in the United States. Yeah.
I mean, he might have played around a bit here and there, I think.
I mean, well, John McCain and Joe Biden showed up on Parks and Recreations where they were the butt of the joke, but that was 10 years ago, and they weren't very good scenes either.
Yeah, they seem to take themselves way too seriously now again.
Well, yeah, because anyway, I mean, the culture in the United States, the political class is almost like a parallel royalty.
Yeah. And then a follow-up to what we're just talking about here, I believe. Pinochet says the U.S. got Canada in trouble with Operation Argo. Argo, F yourself.
Yeah. By forgetting that we had anything involved with it. That's how they.
Yeah. So, was there any more on the Star Wars front? Oh, we got this one here.
It refreshed for me. We have several here. Chaos Sonic says for $5. Is it any surprise Mark became Darth Vader? The guy had TDS since day one. Hell, who to say he was for the destruction of Luke? Yeah, no, I don't think it was. I don't think he ever wanted that, but that certainly didn't help his frame of mind. Let's put it that way. And then Dash Attack says for $4.99, when Mr. H, I guess, for going after Hayden for defending his own movie versus Mark Hamill being a miserable miser and political stooge. Anakin is the chosen one. Well, was this before or after you learned about him chilling for Trudeau?
Honestly, I was just going to say, I don't know if him shilling for his movie was the best look. If I was him, I'd have been like, yeah, I wish we could have done a better job, but George used my worst takes. That's what I would have said.
I don't think he would have said that, though. But
no, I know.
He could have said that in 2007, but not.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
The movies.
Yeah, he can say that now. That's my point. He could come flat out and be like, "Yeah, no," because we all know Hayden Christensen can act. We've seen him in other things.
No, it's very, very simple. He said, "Well, I wasn't able to do it with the green screen." I mean, that's like the thing that many actors have. Can't do it with the green screen. There's nothing there to relate to. And Packing Protons adds, and to Never Trumpers, you can support whatever politician you like. They all stink. It's how you support them we dislike these days. Yeah, I think that's true across the board, no matter where one stands. And Joe Pat 87 sent a member chat saying, "We're officially at the point where the left is all in on us versus them. That's going to be bad for everyone. It's pure ego disguised as empathy." Well, certainly those that have usurped the left, who may not necessarily be of the left themselves, but they usurped it.
Well, like I say, the powers that be want us divided, and we're
Exactly,
just
and that's how you do it.
and
They
we're
hijack any side
just
that they
falling
can.
into the trap.
Yeah. And Neil89 says for $5, elect Palpatine for tyrant. The vote stops here. Yeah,
Do it.
And Adam Wofford says it looks like Luke Skywalker is truly dead. I'll see if there's anything else before we move.
Well, there was this, because I guess evidently the Lego Star Wars is using Darth Jar Jar. So Embrace the Apocalypse asks, thoughts on Darth Jar Jar and the apparent reset? Well, I don't know anything about the reset. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, but
I think that he's probably referring to the reports coming independently of each other from various places that Disney are aware that they're having problems and they are set to change matters going forward. My only thought on
the
that,
boy brand thing,
yeah, if there's want to do that, they have to fire a shit ton of people, because you have a ton of activists within Lucasfilm right now which are dead set against it. So you'd have to fire 90% of
because
all of Lucasfilm to do it.
I'll tell you right up front, here's the problem, and this has been the fundamental issue from the start. It's never been about making Star Wars female. We don't give a shit about that. There's always been strong females in Star Wars. We've said that a million times over. It's how they're written. It's how they're used. It's how the stories go. It's what the stories are. It's how they're told. And the Acolyte, to me, is kind of this encapsulation of everything that's been wrong with Star Wars. And I think that finally hit them like a shockwave. Now, are they really going to learn all their lessons? Are they really going to change to the point where it's going to matter? I don't think so. Are they going to try and shift and probably make it a bit more of a boys brand again? Oh, hell yeah, because they're not making any money on this thing. I think it was even Forbes finally come out or somebody like that and admitted that this thing is a failure for them. Who was it, Culture? Was it Forbes?
Well, it was one of the financials. I think Forbes
I can't remember.
Forbes, and then Deadline just did their four big bombs. And that was just for 2023. But no, you're right. Forbes, Carolyn Reed over at Forbes did a brilliant job of covering this. And then Wall Street Journal's done some stuff. A lot of these financials have talked very much about the fact that Star Wars has not made any money. Disney's very far behind. That's not a good sign.
And the thing is when they first bought the brand, if you go look, they were actually, if they would have just done nothing, if they would have just bought the brand, not put out another movie, just re-release the existing films, and just done toys,
yep,
they would have made their money back by now.
Actually, if they only invested in like one video game,
something like that, yeah,
money, they probably would have been able to generate a significant amount to keep the franchise going, to support the other stuff and make a lot of money back.
But things have gotten so bad that even Boba Fett figures are now on clearance. And for those who maybe kind of just the one or two people in the audience who aren't a Star Wars person or knowledge of it, like Boba Fett is like the #1 selling toy for Star Wars. Like Boba Fett, everything always sells. Not anymore.
Yeah, no, the Boba Fett series would have seen to that. So yeah, and Darth Jar Jar, don't know much about it other than what went viral a little.
And I even have to stand corrected on the Phantom Menace re-release. This is actually poor in comparison to the last one. So
yeah, again, that's what I said. Moving on with the last super chats here before we get into some gaming. JWT6577 says there's no way Reiner will be able to help himself. It'll be TDS the movie featuring Spinal Tap. They've thrown all professionalism away. Oh, it better not be.
The only thing that we can hope for is you got those three guys, the main three guys besides Reiner, who all have different opinions, I'm sure. Now, I'm not saying they all are probably going to lean into the same place, but the beauty of this film is if Reiner just keeps that out of it, it should be fine.
I think
Like
he
he has
can
in the
because
past.
he directed the documentary with Albert Brooks, and they didn't talk politics once, and they could have.
I didn't
Wow.
see that. I'd love to see that one.
And
Well,
those
fingers
two,
Story
yeah.
of your life, or defending your life. Yes, Albert Brooks defends his life.
Fingers crossed that they'll be able to stay professional. And Shadow Dancer, the Red Mage, says if he can be turned, he would be a powerful ally. He would join us, or Ray Barker said for $5, stars that support Republicans are always outed by the Access media. Clint Eastwood, Bo Derek, Robert Davey. Yet stars that support Dems are natural. Yeah, that's the industrial media complex for you.
That's the baseline in Hollywood, yeah.
Chato says for $5, my dream Star Wars project would be an adaptation of TIE Fighter, where the Imperial crew are portrayed unironically as the good guys.
You are not the first one to pitch that. I've heard that for 20 years. And
too
no one
bad,
wants to pull the trigger
well,
on it.
And the problem with this now is that I wouldn't want the people that are there to be behind something like this because they clearly don't fundamentally understand the difference between
Actually,
good
the
and bad.
joke would be that the heroes would finally be the good guys because the rebels would be considered the heroes and the Empire would be the villains because they don't know they're heroes as villains, right? So
Yeah. And T-Neil89
That's
says
true,
for
Script.
$5, 90% of the personnel at Lucasfilm don't do anything but call people rude names on social media, so firing a lot of them would probably be easy. Well, it certainly would be the thing to do if you wanted to win back the fans. And sometimes one simply has to back down a little bit. And on that note, Pilgrim Media says, is Sony backing down on Helldiver a precedent? Yeah, let's get into that because that's another big story over the course of this weekend. Helldiver 2, by all accounts, I haven't played it myself, of course, but by all accounts, a very, very good game from everything I have heard. A game available on Steam, but in the last moment, they announced to everyone that, in order to play this game, you're going to have to link your Steam account to your PSN account, including those of you in countries where there is no PSN. And if you don't have PSN and you already bought the game, well, then you're shit out of luck. This did not go over very, very well. In fact, the blowback was so swift and so severe that already Sony, because they're the ones to blame for this, not the developer, but Sony decided, okay, fine, you don't need a PSN account anyway. So that's a very brief retelling. But someone who knows this in far more detail and maybe can fill in the gaps that I left off here is Mr. Chato. What's going on with Helldiver?
So, yes, a couple of things. Number one, when you log into the game, not when you initially set up your game on Steam, it did say that at some point you're going to be required to use PSN or words to that effect. So that wasn't really a surprise. What I didn't realize during this issue is that Helldiver was being sold to countries where PSN does not exist. So the PSN network encompasses about 70 countries, and there were about another 100 more countries where people were playing the game that were going to be shut out. That's 100 countries. So
100.
this was all under the guise of Sony offering more security and everything else. But those of us who know Sony know that they're collecting data and selling.
Exactly. There's no security involved in this whatsoever.
There could have been the issue, and I was talking about it with my son, that maintaining the servers, making sure that you're able to connect between a PlayStation 5 and a PC. That's a pretty good trick. That's a really good technical trick to be able to play across platforms in a joint competitive environment. That's not easy to do technically. And that was what we understand was what was the problem was at the very beginning. And they had to sort that out technically before they inflicted the PSN requirement. But I mean, it would force people. Well, number one, people demanded refunds. Now, there is a 2-hour play limit on Steam that if you play the game for longer than 2 hours, you can't get a refund, which is completely fair. But I think they were ready to waive that, or they did waive that, and people were asking for refunds left and right. And then there was also the reviews. If you look at the review charts on Steam, it's like great, 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 great. And then this gigantic fall off on a cliff, which encompassed hundreds of thousands of people who suddenly downvoted the game. This was severe.
200,000.
200,000.
And I think the bigger problem with that, with the whole return thing is you had, I don't know if this is just with Steam in other countries, but from what we were talking about this last weekend and stuff, is a lot of these countries that can't even get on the PS network, so they're going to be shit out of luck.
Right. That's what I said. So 100 countries.
Sorry, I missed that part. Sorry.
Yeah, 100 countries of players that are on the game now, because Steam exists there, are cut off. We're cut off. We're going to be cut off. It's like the dumbest thing. People don't talk to each other. Like, these companies are stupid. Greed, again, wins all. And then what was it? Arrowhead? What's the name of the company?
Arrowhead. You're correct.
Arrowhead just looks bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's funny is that guy, the CEO of Arrowhead, came out, Plinstead. Halstead. Yeah, and he spoke rather eloquently. His tweets are top notch. I don't think I see anybody with that kind of cerebral, action when they're writing a tweet to the community. So he did a great job saying, look, this is largely my fault because I wanted everybody to be able to access the game. So I turned off the requirement and didn't communicate that it would be coming back in a matter of months. So he took some responsibility, accountability, which I thought was great. But ultimately, the gamers won out, and it's going to prove a point, which is, just because you're claiming that peoples are getting their fifis hurt, the only real reason you want these PSN accounts is, as you pointed out, to collect data and sell it off. I think people are tired of paying for something and then being sold as chattel. And I think that people who aren't paying for something and are being sold as chattel are starting to pay attention and take notice as well. PlayStation, think about this. Sony gets hacked all the time. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, but it's not.
My password. I've had Sony has been sending me emails saying, please change your password. We've been hacked.
Yeah. And you get tired of it, right? And they have the most famous hack, a different part of the company, in history, where, it basically got rid of the leader of the studio. That's why Mamie Pascal is no longer with the company with the email leak. They get hacked at various different levels, including at the consumer level. That's you and I. I can't tolerate that.
Well, Sony is famous many years ago for putting a root level hack onto your PC.
Yeah, well, everybody's doing that now.
They rooted your OS. Like, it was unbelievably unethical.
Well, hey, everybody does it now with that anti-cheat code garbage. It's the most intrusive thing that they could possibly do. They do it at a processor level, a core level. And it's ridiculous. That really bothers me.
But I guess the ultimate question is this the beginning of consumers taking control away from any kind of large institution, whether it's a broadcast network, Disney, Sony as a game company, Sony as a studio? Is this the beginning of, or is this part of a trend that we've been seeing where online, what would you call it? Protestations is turning into real results.
Yeah. And you know what? I think at a certain level it is, but it's going to have to take constant reinforcement by those same consumers, right? Because you can't become complacent in order for this to work.
Well, look at Stellar Blade. That's another example. I don't think we're going to get the uncensored versions on Sony PlayStation.
Which is a problem, right? I mean, why would you buy anything that says PlayStation on it now?
it's hurting their reputation because they had a fairly okay
compared to
reputation.
Xbox. Yeah. Compared to Xbox, everybody has a good reputation. Because Microsoft sucks rocks.
Oh,
somebody fight me on that one. I think you'll have a hard time.
No.
But
Now, when they tried to turn Xbox into the central entertainment unit of your living room, that was brilliant. That was the dumbest, worst decision I could imagine. Oh, that way, and they backed off on that. So yeah, there's an awful lot of distrust with every large multinational corporation to begin with. Steam, I think, still has a good reputation, though. Don't
they
you
do.
think?
They do. Yeah, Valve. Yeah, they do.
Valve.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, I mean, they have a good reputation in every facet that they touch, but it's because they don't overstep ever.
Right.
Like people have been like, you guys are really slow to get to X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, maybe that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I wish that other fans could coordinate the way that gaming fans do, man. I'm just in awe and, like, man, just it's cool how you guys can just swing things like this so quickly. I wish we had that kind of influence.
I
Well,
wish
part
that
of the
model
power
existed for people to vote properly too. Like that'd be fantastic.
No kidding. Like American Idol is more accurate than our voting system. That's a problem.
Exactly. It's like, how do you get people to understand the candidates and do this? And how do you get companies to change their wares? Well, you organize and you do exactly what the guys did for Helldivers to get Helldivers back on track.
Well,
And that's
our results, the results of not buying the product and being able to turn it off from Steam gives us much more power than waiting 6 months for a comic book, to come out.
Yeah.
It's a very different dynamic. Look what's happened to the most recent games that have failed because of the DEI stuff that we've also discussed at length.
Yeah.
This is what I'm hoping is a harbinger of something good.
Well, it's funny because in the video I put together this morning, I should have done it last night, but I was just exhausted when the news came out. But the video I put out this morning, I say specifically, I'm like, this is what we should be doing everywhere. Consumers should ultimately rule the marketplace. That's the way it's supposed to be in the capitalist system. The supply, demand, desire, scarceability, those are the things that need to manage the marketplace, not all the gobbledygook that's being injected into these corporations, which are against their fiduciary duty to shareholders. Because all of these companies go ahead.
A really interesting, fairly newly developed consumer fight back, which I've been reading about this a lot, and I find this really interesting, is with the EVs, is that these large multinational car companies are now telling the governments of the different countries that they build cars or sell cars in, fuck off. We're not going to comply with your 2035 requirements to go all EV, because number one, you haven't even come close to installing the infrastructure that we need to sell these cars.
Doesn't exist.
And the first movers who wanted their EVs have all bought their cars. The used car market for them is worthless. And companies like Volvo that said, oh, we're going to be all EV by 35 have now stopped selling EVs entirely.
Yeah, Toyota
last year, the CEO of Toyota was run out of the CEO position several years ago because he said, no, EVs are not the future, hybrids are.
It was fair. It was a little more recent, like a year, 18 months. But yeah, you're right. And I don't blame him, right? Saying this isn't going to work.
No, because it's not electric vehicles, they're battery vehicles, and there's a big difference in what those are.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And Toyota said that we can make 20 hybrids for every EV car.
And it's better for the environment as well. That's the irony.
The only reason I brought that up is Mercedes, everyone is turning so quickly on this particular dime, and it's all because of consumerism that have pushed back on government regulations trying to game the industry in a way that it can't deliver. So I see this as all part of the same trend. What's happening with EVs? Sure, buy the car that you want. Let the market decide. Don't be forced into it by governments.
And the beauty with this whole Helldiver thing is that it goes to show exactly what we have been speaking about here for a while now. While we have covered gaming recently. Gaming or gamers are a perpetual online bunch that can turn around on a dime. All you have to do is just not buy the latest product, cancel your pre-order, deliver a negative review, even on things from the same company that's not related, and see how quickly that wind changes.
Yeah.
Because here, over the course of the weekend, they actually reduced course here. So about the original question, yes, I think this is going to have some precedence, because this,
Yeah.
in addition to the other examples that was presented here, goes to show what kind of might consumers actually have. If consumers can just, with the risk of paraphrasing Marx here, unite. If consumers unite, that is how you take down the people who will want to screw us over, people who will lie flat to consumers' faces and say, oh, we do this interlinking for your security. Bullshit! No one signs up to PlayStation Network for any kind of security because it's notoriously hacked and everything. Like, seriously, you're better off throwing your wallet out of a window from a driving car and hope no one finds it than signing up for the PlayStation Network, because it gets hacked and your data gets leaked every once in a while. There's no security. This is just a power grab, and exactly as Paul said, so they have more of your data so they can sell it to third parties for profit, for more tailored ads and other nefarious stuff. So and also very quick, Paul, to your point, it was funny. I was like thinking when you said that when Xbox tried to be the head entertainment device in your living room, I was like thinking, it's funny. When they said that, the best entertainment device for your living room at that time was a jailbroken PlayStation 3.
Yeah, I was going to say they were a generation behind the PlayStation 3 trying to play catch up. And on that note, Hyperguyver 2 also says Sony taking a huge L and then admitting they fucked up is Schadenfreude. I wasn't expecting. Rip Bernard Hill. Yeah, sad to hear about that. And hail the victorious dead. And also, didn't this come down in like the middle of the night U.S. time? So wouldn't that have probably coincided with when Japan was getting up for Monday?
This would have been a European and Japanese decision, probably.
That's what I was thinking, because this came down like in the middle of the night. Like this came out. It was like, what time was it, Culture? It was like, it felt like later, but
it was I think it was 8:31 p.m. or somewhere in there when I saw it.
That,
yeah. Well,
it was late. Let's put it that way. It's also getting late for a couple of our panelists.
It is.
Unfortunately,
on that note, Adam Wilford on the security front says, and you guys should know that Sony isn't secure. Yeah, we brought that up last time. Sony had a secure problem. The Sony hacks show everyone what was really happening. Not only that, the PlayStation's been hacked so many times, like you guys brought up too, like the network has. So that's another problem. But yeah, so Paul's going to be leaving us. When am I getting my TV guide video, Paul?
It's being recorded today.
It better be. You
and
said
before
that like
before you go, because Tom, I believe that Action Pack has something more forceful than what you were going to say anyway. You damn Canucks are not getting away with it. What was your Prime Minister's May the 4th contribution?
It was May the 1st contribution, actually.
Yeah, well, he had a Skype call with Hayden Christensen. That's what he did.
A Skype call.
It was on his phone, like a FaceTime thing.
Well, that helps a little bit.
At least Mark showed up to the White House. DCB Dighton also says for a Canadian toonie, don't forget the Royal Canadian Air Force.
Royal Canadian Air Force. Ici, Canada.
There's Mike from Kenmore.
Hayden
All right,
has
we're losing our Canadians.
Hayden is actually just enjoying his farm in Ontario.
Well, he was in a movie that was not Star Wars back in 2019, and he still acts occasionally, but just he
doesn't need to. He enjoys his life.
What's sad is that George is such a penny pincher. He probably made more on his appearance for Obi-Wan than he did in the whole of the 2 movies he was in.
Well, good for him. Good for him.
I'm just spitballing here because I know.
And he did a better job and he got more praise for it, so I'm glad for him.
Anyway, thank you so much, Canadians, for being here. Script, anything you want to plug on your way out?
Yeah, just go visit my Patreon. I have a review of The Fall Guy. If you haven't seen it, you can check that out along with some of my comments. And then, of course, Scripts on Saturdays, every Saturday on the Script Doctor YouTube channel. Check us out. We've got
Which is fascinating.
Thank you.
It's really cool. Please,
Yeah, I
please
try.
watch Script on Saturday.
All right. Yeah. And what about you, Paul? Anything you want to plug besides TV Guide video?
No, today I released a video that Dante and I did from Verbal Riot. We watched Coffee and then kind of reviewed it together, but at the same time talked about blaxploitation movies and why we won't see them ever again and why they were an interesting anomaly of their time. And he's a very knowledgeable guy, very eloquent, and we had a really, really good time. And both of us forgot really how good Coffee actually was.
I love coffee. It's delicious every morning.
Just talking about the movie.
So is Pam Grier. Hey-ho.
See you
hot, just like coffee.
Anyway, that's it. So please go to Call Me Chato and watch the video that Dante and I made. Very proud of it. It's a good little session. So I will see everyone.
See you, Canadians.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
They're having a secret Canadian meeting they don't want us to know about.
I know.
Think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I know.
If you haven't hit that thumbs up yet, Dr. Longdongler sends in £1.99 to remind you to pound that like button. Thank you so much with that thumbs up. Waratzi sends in a member chat for 25 months. Holy cow. Says pierogies, ravioli, empanadas, dumplings, gyoza, samosas, pot stickers. Hail to all the delicious dough and case goodies. You're just trying to make me hungry, aren't you?
Warachi's, yeah. This is the problem, right? Is people are constantly now mentioning food during streams, and I'm gonna die. You guys, if you want me to eat, you're gonna have to send me like eating money, because I'm already eating myself to pieces. So,
aren't we all? Thunderstrike says for $5, the horn of Helm Hammerhand shall sound in the deep one last time. Rest in peace, King Theoden. Yes, indeed. We also got a couple of other super chats on this note, as Bernard Hill, the legendary actor most known for his roles in Lord of the Rings and Titanic, is sadly no longer with us. Avarachi, for instance, said for $5, I go to my fathers, and even in their mighty company I shall not now be ashamed. Rest in peace, Bernard Hill, Theoden King. Yes, indeed. That was... let's see if there was someone else on that particular topic. I don't see any right now, so then we're back to the top again with Callum Lyle saying for $5 If those Deadpool reshoots turn out to be true, then does it show Kevin Feige is truly insecure and love being a failure? Which Deadpool reshoot is he referring to? Is this the story about how Kevin Feige didn't want Hugh Jackman in the first place and rejected the initial pitch? Because there was no reshoots associated with that. I'm not familiar with reshoots. Have I missed out on
something? Actually came out, and I think they were confirmed, but their excuse was that they're to shoot extra cameos. And we're just all looking at this going, this movie comes out in July. The hell are they doing shooting reshoots now? This movie should be getting near the final stages of editing.
Well, this is the Marvel way, isn't it?
It is the Marvel way. Now, in this instance, I can almost believe it if they weren't sure if certain cameos were going to make it or they wanted to keep them a secret, because things were already starting to get leaked out early on. So I can believe that they pushed some off until after the movie was done, or they just wanted to see what they had room for after the movie was kind of cut together, maybe. Probably a bunch of end credit sequences or something like that. Maybe. I can almost half-ass buy that, but I guess we'll just have to see how the movie turns out. I don't know. I haven't heard about any test screenings or anything yet, though, so And usually if reshoots follow a test screening, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, it is a bad sign. If anybody was thinking this movie was going to be good, I'm sorry. You're going to be in for disappointment.
I would think if there were any test screenings that I would have heard about it though.
Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see what we're dealing with there. It's too early to tell.
Normally I'm kind of the negative Nancy on this one, and I'm kind of being the positive one. So I'll take that as you will.
Yeah.
Lost for Words has been a member for 28 months. Thank you for that. HyperGuyver2 says Sony taking such an L and then admitting. Oh, we got this one already. Patrick Robinson says another super chat, but I heard somewhere anxiety was cut from Inside Out 2. Doubt that's true. No, not that I know of.
No,
But I wanted to know if anyone else had heard similar. No.
no.
I heard, didn't they get rid of one of the other emotions though? Culture, or misremembering something?
I think we're misremembering something because the anxiety is like the featured problem in the film.
Yeah. That I know, but I thought. Never mind. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But anyway, yeah, no. As far as I know, they already got the toys and stuff out, don't they?
Yeah, I think you can already buy.
Because I thought Pro did something about that. Yeah, where they had the doll, or maybe posted on X or something like that. I thought. Dark Winter sends in £2. Says easily I'd watch that again. I'm not sure which one you're referring to, Dark Winter, but just add us so we know.
I think he sent a clarification later down here. I think.
Oh, does he? Okay. Where is it?
No, I was thinking of something else. So
okay.
No clarification.
Just go ahead and add us. You don't have to send another super chat in. I'm just not sure which one you're referring to. Dash Attack sends in a member chat for 24 months. That's 2 years by my math. It says Helldivers backlash was pro-consumer victory. Yes, it was. Now we just need to save Stellar Blade. Also, Sonic 3 trailers rumored to drop this week. Can't wait. Yeah, I heard that. Yep. So we'll see if that does. And then we got Red Dawn Batman here, who's been a member for a year. It says, hail to all Helldivers. We stuck together and made our voices heard. We won for democracy and for freedom. Cheers, everyone. Yes, indeed.
I agree. Fantastic. Good job. That's how you do it.
Consumers, I mean, that's how you get together. Cancel or say I want a refund or don't buy. Chad Curtis sends in $1.99 and also make sure if you cancel something, if like it's a subscription, make sure they know why. That was something I remember a lot of people were like, I canceled my Disney Plus subscription after Gina Carano. I'm like, well, did you tell them why? And they're like, no, I didn't say shit. It's like, well, then they don't care. Because they're just going to look at it as you're part of the churn, but if you actually posted why and they see that starts to add up, right?
Exactly. Enough people have to see why for it to trend, then they can't ignore it. Well, they can try, but keep doing it. At some point they no longer can.
Yep. Chad Curtis sends in $1.99, says Variety, Sydney Sweeney as Barbarella in development 1 year. Yeah, this is actually something that came out, or no, wait, this is really?
Yeah, it was like last week.
Yeah, I was gonna say we thought we heard this already.
Yeah.
Which is a good role for her. I'm still gonna say, as a Red Sonja fan, that if only they could remake that movie, send out an offer to her, that would be $1 billion hit. Seriously, that movie,
I want to see her as a
Sonja
redhead.
with Sydney Sweetie, that could be this year's Wonder Woman.
I want to see her as a redhead. Hell yeah. I'm not seeing it on Variety's main page, but yeah, I do remember. I thought this broke a couple days ago. I was going to say, yeah, good for them. That means they're listening a little bit, or somebody is smart and saw through the bullshit. You're like, let's use those assets, baby. Anyway, Dash Attack says, apologize. Autocorrect is glitchy with super chats. No worries, Dash Attack. No worries. We usually find our way around any issues with that.
And sometimes we're glitchy too, and we have nothing else to blame. So
I don't read them right anyway. So what are you worried about? Forgotten Prime has become a member. Thank you for that. And Troy Pacelli, how you doing? Has been here for 14 months. Check out his channel if you haven't already. It has great conversations over there. JWT6577 has been a member for 18 months. Thank you for that. Waltman4 says, like every new Super Sentai and Super Sentai and make Rider's suit reveals. Let's wait and see the new Superman suit in motion. Yeah. Especially, I think he means especially
Yeah,
the
example.
for example.
For
Sorry.
an example, see the Boomger suits. If you want to see an example, I guess. Yeah, I have no idea what that is, but basically, just is wait and see the suit in motion, and I think so too. It's probably going to look good by the time all is said and done. Adam Wolford says for $2, I would have a stunt man as a spy too. Yeah, well, it certainly has an excuse for traveling around the world. No argue there. Pinot Chase Helicopter Tour says for $2. Only thing Disney wants for boys is to be girls.
I know that song.
Yeah. But the one by
Boys who are
Blur.
girls who are. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And Bloodhound Gang. Both.
I remember when that one came out. Those were the days.
Yeah, it was.
My countryman Paris Plain says for 100 Norwegian krona, the ITV TV network, British satirical television puppet show, Spitting Image from 84 to 96. Genre adult puppeteering, political satire, black comedy. Indeed, I thought that the adults in Lands of Confusion by Genesis, aren't those from Spitting Image? That's what I thought.
This is the land of confusion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought those were from Spitting Image. And GraphWeb says for $2, for the love of God, #cancel Disney Plus. Oh, yeah, many people are doing that. And the Acolyte is yet to come. I'm sure that's going to be with a massive new wave of cancellations as well. Anything else would genuinely surprise me. And then we have Vincenzo Beretta, who says for €5, the Italians did a couple of hilarious skits on Biden, proving that it can be done. The USA are crippled. Yeah, Culture, I'm sure you saw that Italian skit on Biden.
Yeah, I've seen a few skits on Biden, not just Italian, but obviously Russian and other
there are
countries.
many.
Yeah.
There's a lot to work with there.
Well, yeah, there's a ton to work with there. I mean, look, even Saturday Night Live has started to fish in that pond, which is the only time they're funny is when they go after the sitting president, which they just are terrified to do in this country now.
Yeah, no, it only took them 4 years to do so this cycle.
Yeah, but it's just we're in a world where, if you are so hell bent on supporting one political ideology, you can't be funny. You're only funny when you can go after everybody equally, and that includes anybody, any ethnicity, anybody that's different than anybody. You have to have the full range, or else you can't have humor. And that's again, look at what happened in other fascist states going back into the 30s. I mean, all they have to do is get rid of the comedians, and then you start to just get rid of humor. Mocking is the most effective tool against neo-Marxists. Just mock them to pieces. It works. That and financial pressure. And we just talked about an example of that with PlayStation and Helldivers too. So that's how you win, guys. Keep it up.
That's exactly right. I'm just going to relate a very quick story on that. Actually,
Yeah.
It's from a Conan story written in the 1930s by Robert E. Howard, where Conan is king, and he is lamenting his enemies who are conspiring against him. And the one that annoys him the most is what do you call them again? Like the singer-songwriters of the time, the jesters.
Yeah, the
jester, basically.
Well,
Not working for him, but like an independent jester that is singing against him. And he's like, that guy is more dangerous than anyone else, because he is making the people riled up against me, because he has the ear of the people, and there's nothing I can do against him. I can go and kill anyone else, but I can't kill him, because then I'll be proving him right. Yeah. That's the power of a free media. And that's what we are maybe in part seeing a little bit of a return to. Too late. But yeah. And then Packing Protons says for $5, we really need a Disney hack on the level of a Sony one. Get rid of the entire company. Or you're never getting rid of the entire company. Certainly not in the foreseeable future. But I would so love a Disney hack. That would be glorious to read all of the emails going back and forth behind the scenes there. I mean, we had so much fun with that Sony hack. I was very disappointed with what the media chose to do with it and the insignificant bullshit stories that they highlight when they ignored all of the real cool meaty stuff. And there's still a gold mine of stuff there to mine that people haven't really looked into at all. But yeah, it is what it is. But I don't think that it's going to happen. But man, that would be glorious if something like that were to happen. And the Batman says for $10, in the Star Wars legend, most of the big planets that had a high support for the Empire were former slave planets that were freed by the Empire, which is why they fight the New Republic and join Thrawn. Yeah, that's not Star Wars I'm not too familiar with. We are now in the animated series, I think, or certainly the no, of course that would be the books by Timothy Zahn, wouldn't it? So then
that's the Thrawn trilogy by Zahn.
Yeah. So then that would be good. It only goes to show what you can do when you properly think through things. I was about to say, but that can't possibly have come from Dave Filoni. That's too clever to come from him.
Dave Filoni.
It would have come from a far superior writer, so that explains that. And then Jason Webster says for $5 Australian, so far in 2024, Disney has only earned 2.7% of the domestic box office share. Warner Brothers leads with a 33% share. That is one hell of a gap right there.
But they're going to fire Zaslav.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What now?
Culture. Did you foresee this happening? That Disney would have a measly 2% of the box office compared with Warner's 33%?
Well, I would say that just paying attention to the lack of production because of the strikes, that would have been an easy one to pick up. I didn't talk about that, but I have been talking about this huge box office gap and Disney only having 5 viable films this year. One of them being this Wolverine thing, this Deadpool Wolverine thing, which I think isn't going to yield what they hope. I think we're about to see Disney finish the year with under 15% of the box office. Believe it or not. I don't know. What do you guys see anything different?
You know what? I am inclined to agree with you because WDW Pro has previously reported that Disney's master plan for this year is to have $4 billion hits. And those 4 movies that they planned that for was obviously Deadpool, and it was Mufasa. It's definitely not going to happen when you look at the early reaction to it. They even had to shut down the comments and everything. And then it's Inside Out 2, and then the final one is the Moana sequel. Am I remembering that correctly, or am I missing something?
You are remembering it correctly. It all looks very bad, and it's a decent chance that Moana thing moves back again.
Yeah, none of those are billion-dollar movies.
No. And I look at it. I think you landed on the thing that is terrifying them the most, Andre. With all the feedback on these films is negative, with the exception of Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine isn't going to pull a billy. That's not going to pull $1 billion. I'm telling you right now, people are overestimating it, though. Tom, I'm sorry, it's not going to make $1 billion.
Deadpool might.
It's rated R.
Well, you guys, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
And the last good film coming out of Marvel was Guardians 3, and that made what? 800 million.
You guys are misunderstanding the normies, though, when it comes to Deadpool. They don't see that as the same thing as the other stuff. Okay. But that's an island in a sea of piss. Whatever they make on that is going to be completely flushed down the toilet with Mufasa. I guarantee you, Mufasa is going to be one of the biggest flops.
No, you're right.
You've ever fucking seen.
You're right.
Because whatever difference you saw between Black Panther and Black Panther 2, you're going to see that tenfold with Mufasa.
You're right.
So, and Planet of the Apes is the only thing they've got up in the air right now. They better hope and fucking pray this movie is good. because they've got nothing else. You guys are correct on that. I'll wholly agree with you on that. Deadpool is the only exception here. And here's the thing with this movie is if Deadpool's good, they'll be all right because the theaters, the movies in theaters are playing like movies used to play back in the day. They don't have these grand openings all the time like we used to have. But if something's good, they'll stick around. Look at where King Kong and Godzilla and Dune, they had staying power. That's the thing. And Godzilla X Kong still has a chance to get really damn close to my prediction. Dune came really close too. And this is a thing with Warner Brothers right now, and that was what I was saying. They're knocking it out of the park with almost everything they're doing lately. So Disney should be worried about them more than anybody at this point.
Oh, I agree.
Besides Universal, because Universal's got them tied up animation-wise, right? We know Despicable Me 4 is going to probably rule the summer as far as kids movie goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think we'll disagree on that one.
No.
But yeah, at this point, Disney is fucked. They better hope people want to go ape this weekend. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, but I've not been hearing good things about that, Tom. So
I'm worried about it too, and I'm going Wednesday.
All right.
So I'll have, well, it's technically one day early, but yeah.
Yeah, but you'll have a good take on it.
Yeah.
But we're getting some takes on it already, so we'll have to see how those roll through the week.
We'll see. And as for Deadpool, I don't think it's going to do $1 billion, but I'm not going to conclusively rule it out. Because if that one knocks it out of the park, I mean, Joker was able to get to $1 billion with an R rating, so it can be done.
Yeah.
But it's but I would not put money on it. Let's put it that way. I would not put money on it hitting $1 billion. If anything, if I had to put money on something, I would put money on it not hitting $1 billion, but I wouldn't put more than I could afford to lose, to put it that way, because I can't rule out that it's going to. And then we have Captain Fandom Nerd, who's been a member for 34 months, and we're glad to have you. And Chris K wonders, what metal wisdom does Andre offer this week?
Ooh.
It's funny that you should ask that, because if you are familiar, right? If you are familiar with me and my love for metal, then, and since I'm Norwegian and everything, then chances are you may have heard about a little group called MEiTM. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the group of MEiTM, or a group called MEiTM, you may be familiar with true Norwegian black metal, which is associated with church burnings and band members killing each other and other people and all that kind of horrible stuff. Yeah, like the people that basically made Oslo the Compton of Europe for a little while there in the 90s. That was all MEiTM. MEiTM is the band that was in the center of the church burnings, where the original or the second lead singer, how do I put this, self-deleted himself, and then the leader of the band was actively deleted by another member of the band, who many of you will be familiar with, namely Varg himself.
I was going to say, is this that one that the movie was based on or whatever?
Yes, the movie Lords of Chaos. That's the movie about this band, MEiTM.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, now you would of course think, okay, with so many dead members being in jail and church burnings and killings and what have you, this band, it's the stuff of legend. It's over, right? It must be completely and utterly over. And I wouldn't blame you for thinking that. But here's the thing. The original bassist, he came back again after the leader of the band was killed by the new bassist and everything, and he kind of reformed it. And the band has been relatively active ever since. And for any true metalheads out there that want to witness a piece of history, if you were to head on over to Oslo for Friday, there's tickets available for the extra concert of Mayhem, of the 40th anniversary concert. They're still active, still doing whatever, and watch out, because you may have dead animals flung at you in the audience. So I'm sure that's going to be quite the experience. So yeah, that's
Yeah, after all that story, I'm just sitting here like when you go, and he came back, I was waiting for you to go, from the dead.
Well, the funny thing is that
that would be like the total most
bassist,
black metal thing ever, right?
No, it gets even more black metal. You know, the leader of the band who got actively killed by the new bass player. Well, the old bass player who said, if that guy hadn't killed him, I would have. So,
wow.
Yeah, quite a bunch of people right here. So if anyone,
I'm getting some ideas here, though, Sander. Yeah, you're thinking the same road up the same road I am.
So I just
the band's so metal they all came back from the dead.
Yeah. So since you asked about it, and you see there on the screen, you can get tickets from Ticketmaster.no. There you can get tickets. The original concert that has been sold out a long time ago, that's on Saturday. I actually do have tickets for it, but I'm unlikely to be able to go since I'm not in Norway. But extra concert on Friday for anyone that is interested and have the opportunity for a quick trip to Norway at the end of the weekend. I don't think I'll be able to be there, but I would have loved to be, just to witness that little piece of history, although the music is, shall we say, an acquired taste.
Yeah, we're already brainstorming this thing here. Look, Joey's right. Yeah, this is what I was thinking. They get rejected from hell because they're too loud, and that's why they came back from the dead. Yeah, that's some pretty badass shit. It's like even hell couldn't contain them.
Yeah. Oh, and in a funny coincidence, Varg, the new bass player that killed the band leader and was in jail for many years afterwards, and then at one point he escaped jail. And he held a family at gunpoint and stuff like that during his escape. And then he was thrown back in jail. He's free now. And he's still active. And last week he put out like the first single of his new album, which would be Burtsum, for those familiar with that. Kanye West even got some heat for wearing Burtsum shirts and having the original design on like this vultures things ripped off of this guy. So yeah, this is
I already got a song name.
Black metal or in metal.
The Devil Is My Bitch. That's their first song already. I'm working on this shit.
So yeah, that's I'm obviously not sponsored for saying this. I just thought I'd mention it since I was asked. So yeah, that's what's.
We should almost make that like Andre's Metal Talk. Well, honestly, I should try and get you and we should try and coordinate something with Razor Fist where you and him just talk metal for like an hour.
Yeah, he's going to have to help me because he knows much more about this stuff, which is ironic because I'm from the place where all of this is happening, like where this band is and everywhere they recorded. You know, that this famous studio where they recorded their albums, and the studio where some of the most epic black metal albums were ever produced, that Razor Fist has been talking about. It's literally 5 minutes walk from my house. Like it's a kebab shop now.
I'm such a boomer. I'm over here going, Fleetwood Mac rocks.
Either way, so yeah, that's the offer or the metal wisdom that I can offer this week, and then we'll see what comes next week. So I hope you got your money's worth there. Probably needs to be a regular feature.
That's what I'm saying. I already got the music. That's your birthday song.
But moving on, we have a couple of more super chats to go through. Jason Webster says, Tom, after hearing, what the fuck you in, my brother, for? What a hit for DP and the Three Ways. Any chance of the group getting back together after Daryl's hip replacement and Gary's cataract surgery?
You never know.
I'm the boomer, so you're gonna have to handle this one.
You kind of know what's going on here, but I've been doing all those songs lately.
Oh yeah.
If you actually read the description, I come up with an entire bio for these guys. And one of the more recent ones I released is "What You Fucking My Brother For," and it turns out that that was actually happening, and the brother is in the group. And yeah, let's just say it's funny that you mentioned that story about band members killing each other. Anyway, it broke the band up. They didn't kill each other, but it came close. So yeah, no, check out the songs if you will. Thank you for the plug, Jason. I appreciate that a lot. Actually, my last one I think has been doing the best of all of them. Why Does It Hurt When I Pee? That one's been doing really well in the last 24 hours. So check those out.
Know where to find these songs.
I'm bringing up the link right now. Yeah. Because they're just little 2-3 minute songs I've been making with AI. So yeah, but they're over on Midnight's Edge After Dark, and I've also started a channel for them specifically called Lost Classics. That eventually they'll all just go over there when they're all said and done. Thanks for the plug, Jason. I appreciate it. Andre's maybe heard one or two of these, and he's just like ignored them ever since.
Well, I do listen to the metal ones.
Yeah.
And then T. Neil wonders, hey, aren't we overdue for a member stream? We are. That just occurred to him. Yes. We should be able to do one tomorrow at the earliest. Will that work for you, Tom?
I think we should be able to pull that off, maybe.
Yeah, we are so overdue. It can't be pushed back anymore. We've just been busy. I've been traveling. It's my fault. I was away this weekend. I was away last weekend. And yeah, sometimes it's be like that. But we'll try to get a confirmation for tomorrow. Jesus Davila sent a super sticker. Thanks very much for that. And Staccato DTS gifted 10 Midnight's Edge memberships. That's awesome. And will come great in hand for membership stream, probably already tomorrow. And Tennille also sent another $20 saying they can plan to make multiple billion-dollar movies all they want. Disney, that is. The Titanic planned to reach New York. I can plan to make a rocket ship, but at the end of the day, it will still explode. Or maybe just sit on my lawn. Yeah, plans are glorious.
I just want to thank Staccato again for that, because I remember saying something last night about him hopping over here. Yeah. I'm gonna make him my dentist. He's got money to throw around. That means he must be a very damn good dentist.
You'll be a dentist. You have a talent for causing things pain.
Ouch. I love it. Sorry. Andre, I don't even know if he's ever seen Little Shop of Horrors. He's probably like,
Little Shop.
No, well, I saw bits and pieces of it, but it's been so many years, I have to rewatch it. I haven't seen it.
Tennille says, jokes on me, though. I live in LA. I don't own a lawn. You know, that's funny. Those are the people that are always telling us to go touch grass when they don't even own any.
Funny how that works.
It's like I remember growing up playing out in the fields and shit like that, yeah.
Yeah, and Almwood says for $4.99, could they have put Deadpool on the list of billion-dollar earning movies in hopes of engineering its failure, even if it does make money? No, they really want to make money on this one. They have to. They do not want this thing to fail. They do not want
they can't afford it.
Kind of perception of it. This has to be a massive hit for them. If it isn't, they're screwed. Of course, they already are, but then you can't really deny how screwed they are. Jason Webster says for $5 Australian, crooner Tony Vegas with his melancholic hit, Why Does It Hurt When I Pee? Oh, they just don't make songs like that anymore. Well, Tom does, so yeah.
Yeah, it's really sad that, you know, speaking of offing yourself, yeah, he offed himself by shooting himself twice in the head and once in the back. It's so sad.
What, by any chance, was he friends with Hillary Clinton?
Maybe.
Well, he probably was at some point, but you know, the friendship ended. Like,
Well, yeah.
Abruptly, it sounds like.
He just had the wrong folks around him, I think. They depressed him too much.
Yeah.
Wolf and Heart, how you doing? Sends in a member chat for 2 months, says, if your band isn't powered by a Boss HM2 pedal, you're wrong. Okay.
I think I probably still have one of those somewhere.
And then Caleb 2001 says, regardless of how the box office could be, do you all think Deadpool and Wolverine will be well received by the majority of the fans, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3? What was NWH? Oh, No Way Home.
No Way Home.
Yeah, it
I
was.
think that actually, I think on this one, it's going to be a perfect correlation. If the audience likes it, it's going to have a massive box office, and if it doesn't, the box office is going to reflect that. The Marvel brand is now so damaged that this movie is going to have more goodwill going in. But if the word of mouth is bad, it's going to kill it right off the bat. And whereas if the word of mouth is good, the Deadpool brand has enough goodwill that it's going to help uplift it. So I think the two will be perfectly correlated. It's not a matter of that the movie does bad but is well received by the fans. That's not going to happen. Either it's going to be well received critically and commercially, or it won't do either. One of the two. That's what I think. Culture?
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. I think that it won't matter. Word of mouth will be what drives it ultimately to the highest numbers. If people like myself and others who love Deadpool go see it and we say nothing but foul things about it, that will have an effect on the box office. And look, I know it sounds strange, but the lamestream media is now paying attention to the things that we say. And that hasn't happened in a long time because, they had to support whatever messaging they were supposed to support. I don't know. Do you think that we're starting to hurt the bottom line? Yes. And I think that if it has good word of mouth, it'll be good. If it doesn't, it'll suck rocks. There you go.
Yeah, I think you guys are right. I do. That kind of goes along with what I was trying to say earlier too, and at the same time, I think the bigger thing will be not so much this movie being a sea of, an island in a sea of piss, as I keep saying. What I think it'll be a real testament to is if it's good, that it'll prove that you can still do popular and successful superhero films. And the main thing that it has going for it is that I would be sitting here going, oh, it's just another desperate attempt to try and do another No Way Home. If it wasn't for the fact that this was kind of set up in the prior two Deadpool movies way before No Way Home was even a thing. Right? Like, this seems like the logical place this should have went, because he's been picking on the idea of doing something with Wolverine for a while, and I think that's what the fans are looking forward to. You got to remember, this isn't just a Deadpool movie now. This is also a Wolverine movie. So if it's good, this has the potential to be like, what Batman v Superman could have been, right? Like, it has the potential to even rival No Way Home. Now, do I think it's going to do that well? No. But I mean, as far as how good it is, it could be. But it also could be crap. It could be utter trash. And if that's the case, I think you guys are right. I think it falls off a cliff its second weekend and Disney is screwed. And really, we could sit there and say, yeah, put a fork in the superhero movies for now, because unless Superman makes bank, I think we're pretty much done with this cycle at this point. Which is sad, because they could have kept it going for a hell of a lot longer.
Yeah. They're a victim of their own hubris. I was going to say success, but it's hubris.
Sadly, you are correct. Anyway, we got a couple more here. We got Horseradish Power, who says with £2 tomorrow is the Disney call. Is it?
Yeah. Actually, yes. I had forgotten that when I spoke about member chat tomorrow, or member stream tomorrow. May have spoken too soon. Tomorrow is Disney's Q2 earnings results webcast. So we'll have to check the exact timing for that one, which is why we'll confirm any membership stream. But that actually may be in the way, because we probably will be covering that live, maybe with a Valiant Renegade or something. That is tomorrow. I had forgotten that. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's really early, Tom. Early.
Oh,
early.
If it's that early, well, I won't be up. Then that means that we may have a member stream then.
4 something in the morning.
Yeah, I might still be up then. Shit.
For Pacific. 7 something for Eastern.
Oh, well, that's like 6 o'clock in the morning for me. No fucking way.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
And I haven't been asked yet.
We'll get back to it, but yeah. Okay,
so that actually that bodes well for a member stream, because that means that by the time that would be over, that would be the normal time we'd have a member stream anyway, or it'd be way, because we normally do the member streams the same time as the morning show. So
yeah.
Jason Webster sends in an Australian 5 and says the song by Tony was based on his brother Benny, who contracted STD from his girlfriend, talented yet troubled 28-year-old actress Aubrey Winfield. I should write this down.
Lore. I love it.
Oh, it's got a whole lore.
Yeah, that sounds like early revenge porn right there.
Jason Webster says Aubrey Winfield was known for acting affairs with battles with insomnia, OCD, acrophobia, dissociative personality disorder, and colorblindness.
Yeah, just to dot the I right there.
Yeah. Tennille says with $5, I'm not sure I want to know what those islands are made of. I'm guessing Baby Ruth. Well, with Deadpool, you never know. I don't think they're Baby Ruth bars. Richard Waring says, Frank Zappa, why does it hurt when I pee? Joe's Garage. Yeah. People reminded me that, he had the song with a similar name. Packing Proton says, all the celebrating I'm doing for Tennille's 10th super, I'm going to need new kidneys. Oh, wow. Yeah. Don't overdo it, Packing Protons.
Yeah, I mean, and this is Tennille's 10th super for like the 1000th time.
Yeah, because it only goes to 10.
Yeah. Sometimes they need to get that knob that'll go all the way to 11 though.
These go to 11.
8 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, I knew it was like butt clock early in the morning. So, yeah.
Do you think they're gonna have a joke as good as that in the new one? I don't know.
I don't think so.
No. It's a fine line between clever and stupid. And with that, speaking of, Andre, anything we need to plug before we go? Culture, you got anything coming up?
Anything on the Rumble side?
Ooh.
Oh shit! Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Check those rants.
I don't see anything in the mod group, but let me double check, because I don't want to miss anything.
I want to be in America.
Well, good for you, because that's where you're at.
Everything's free in America.
That's what they like to think.
Well, it may have been at one point in time. Not so sure that's true anymore.
All right. No, I don't see any on the Rumble side of things, so I think we are good to go.
All right. To promote, yes, I had just dropped a video about the lovely, great news from Helldivers 2. All the gamers won. And let's talk about why and how, and maybe we should keep going. You guys like to win? Let's try winning some more.
She's like the wind.
Not that kind of win.
Oh. Tennille says, I think my member chat got buried. You want to check that on your end, Andre? Because I didn't see one here unless I accidentally bumped it.
Member chat. Okay, I'll see what
I may have accidentally bumped it while we were trying to clean up.
I think it was one about. Let's see if I can find it here.
Apologies if I did.
Biology.
Yeah, because there was one I didn't. Oh, but do I get the member chats in the?
Shoot! Here? I hope so, because otherwise I'll have to go. I'll go searching for it real quick.
I think it was. I remember seeing it. I think it was something.
Here it is. It didn't pop up for some reason.
Yeah, that's the way. That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
I
must have accidentally bumped it or something, because I do remember seeing it.
What Andre is saying is that's how you ascend at the ranks at Midnight Search, the Vikings / the Metal way. Also the Sith way.
Yeah. I think Andre would kill me.
Yeah, well, remember, most...
I may be one of the fighting Irish, but you got Viking blood. No, fuck that.
I'll get hyped up before the Tvekamp by listening to some mayhem or something.
That's what I'm saying. I don't even want to try that shit. No. That's where you run.
Right. Do we have femininity later tonight?
I think so. Most likely. We didn't last week, so I'm thinking this week we probably will.
Yeah.
So hopefully. And I'm sure the ladies are going to talk about Superman.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And then Jason
Fall
Webster
Guy.
says for 10 Australian dollars, who could ever forget that hit by Roger Hardwick, first cuck is the deepest. The song based on his catching his fiancée with the postman, milkman, neighbor, and grocery delivery man one afternoon. Yeah, that was some afternoon.
Sounds like I need to hire you, Jason, to start writing these bios, because this isn't even one I've written yet. So here we go.
Oh, it sounds like it might have been.
Oh, and Andy will kill us all.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go. Yeah. And of course, we know how that happened with like there's plenty with like some Irish and Norwegian in them. So yeah.
Yeah. I got mine's more German, I think, than Norwegian. I'd have to double check though. But thank you so much, guys, for listening today. Culture, was there anything else you wanted to plug? I think you did your plug-in, but all right, good. Andre, it is time
Also
for...
check out Call Me Chato, check out Culture Casino channel, check out Script Doctor, and check out Toxic Femininity later tonight. And of course, also check out Midnight Edge After Dark. Clips from this stream and so many others will be up in live archives. And with that, it is time for some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given, koala, koala, koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given, koala, koala, koalas in the rain.